Yeah, what's good, what's good, what's good? Welcome to Reflections of a DJ, the R.O.A.D podcast presented by DJ City and Beat Source. I'm one of your hosts, DJ Crooked. Jamie the Great is MIA. We've invaded New York City. I'm here with one of my main mans right here, DJ Marty Rock in the building. He's helping co-host. Thank you for coming through, Marty.
Thank you for having me, my brother.
I appreciate it. Now, I'm going to go through a little intro and a story time right now. Because this guest, I've been, wanting this guest on for like 2 years now. So, 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, 2022, we had an episode, I think it was episode 233, and it was called, I think, Miserable is Safe. And we were speaking about A.Marie and Rich Harrison, and we were talking about the rumors that Beyonce stole, Rich Harrison from A.Marie, blase blah. We put a clip out on Instagram and socials. It went viral. The Beehive attacked us. It was crazy. It was chaotic. Usually, like, when we go viral and we get attacked by, I don't know, one time we got attacked by Nigeria, another time we got attacked by like Republicans and Republican DJs, liberal DJs as well. We were getting attacked, but this lasted, usually it's like 2-3 days. This lasted like 2 weeks. But in the midst of all this chaotic social media, frenzy, there was like this bright light of clarity. And that was this individual, DJ Sir Charles DIXON. And Sir Charles was leaving these comments. And I was like, is this legit? He was like, I worked this record. A lot of this is true. This is the details. I was doing some checking. I checked with all these industry people. They're like, oh, no, he's legit. Sir Charles is legit. And I was like, I would love, and we kind of connected. We DM'd a little bit. We talked a little bit. And we actually dedicated a whole episode to the information he gave us. And I want to deep dive into that.
Shout out to Fat Fingers.
Yeah, shout out to Fat Fingers for sure. Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah, he definitely connected all the dots. And, so Sir Charles is a DJ, to say the least. He's a producer, He's been in radio for almost 40 years.
Yep.
From Maryland to New York to London. And he's worked at labels. He's been a senior director for DJ marketing promotions for MCA, TVT, Columbia Records, Tommy Boy. Mm-hmm. And, he was a part of this Technicians crew. Am I saying it right?
Yep, the Technicians.
And that's pretty important part of a lot of the story, right? Kind of. But I will get into that a little bit later. But I say the least, I got a lot of questions, but I'm really happy to have him here and welcome, DMV royalty to the building. DJ Sir Charles DIXON. Thank you for coming through.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
I wish we could have connected earlier, but just running around.
No, this is like perfect timing for you to come through. Do you remember this like 2 years ago?
Oh, absolutely. I forgot where I was driving. Maybe I was going to work, and I got a text from Fat Fingers. He's like, Charles, you got to get on this. You got to get on this post, man. They're talking about A.Marie and Beyonce. You got to get on there. I was like, oh, what's going on? They're saying that Beyonce stole A.Marie's style. I'm like, what? That's not what happened. He said, well, remember that story you told me? We was driving to Numark, and I was like, yeah. He's like, well, tell this guy, tell everybody know what happened. I was like, okay. That was 20 years ago, but I could break it down. So you were working at Columbia at the time? Yeah, I was working at Columbia. I had just left TVT Records. So at TVT, I had Snoop and the East Siders. I got Little John his deal. Naughty by Nature, I got a deal for them. And I pretty much put my database that I built for the DJ community, mix show community, into their system so that they could, blow up. And so I started there around 2000. And my title, like you said, was they wanted my title to be Senior Director of DJ Marketing and Promotion. So anything that had to relate to the vinyl or the DJs had to go through me. So I was involved in A&R and promotion and radio promotion, and I ran the street teams too. Damn. Yep. So. Were they paying you well? Oh, yeah. Very well. What they were paying me to call DJs, I was like, wow, this is fun. They're paying me for fun.
So break down, what was your job exactly? You had to kind of like...
Well, I had to, outreach to the DJs, the record pools, influential DJs, and just push the records as they came out. And my first project, when I got there, they were like, yeah, we got this artist, A.Marie. She's from D.C. You're from D.C., Baltimore area, so this should be good. So I did some research on her. She was a Georgetown English major, but she was also a military brat. So her mom was Korean, her dad was Black, African-American. And I was like, I liked her look, I liked her vibe. She had a couple performances, I think, at Howard University. So I went down, I checked her out, and I like really fell in love with the project.
She was like a girl next door, very wholesome, right?
Yep, that was my vibe because you had different artists with different vibes. Like I think one of the A&Rs wanted to take her more in a Mary J. Blige direction. Mm-hmm. I'm like, she's a Georgetown English major. Like that's not her direction. She's the girl next door, like you said. So I said, I'll take on the project. And at the time, my DJ crew was the Technicians, headed up by DJ Ran and DJ Scrap.
But this is not like a local crew. This is like 400 DJs.
We were national. It was like, okay.
Wait, DJ Ran from Jersey?
No, from Philly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
were these all radio DJs or?
Yeah. So how it started was years before that. I would say around 92. There was a DJ out of Detroit that had passed away, and Ricky Lee, who was also from DC, he worked at PGC and he worked at KSFM in San Francisco, and we were good friends. When I worked at the radio station, he worked there as well. He was like an assistant to the music director, Albie D, and we connected when I got to New York in '90 because we were hanging out back in PGC from '87 to '90, so like around '91. At a new music seminar, me and Ricky, we reconnected and we was like, yo, we need to work together. So when the DJ passed away, we wanted to get all the DJs together to, kind of have a memorial conference call. And Ricky at the time, he was working for Hitmakers magazine. His job was to get DJ quotes for the magazine, but he didn't know any DJs.
What kind of like quoting the new song or something?
New songs. Their feedback on different songs.
Like, can you give me an example? Like, what would have been a song, or what would have been like a quote?
Like, for example, when I left WPGC in '90, I got the job at Tommy Boy. So that's Naughty by Nature, De La Soul, Digital Underground, Queen Latifah, Stetsasonic, House of Pain. Those are all my groups.
Oh my God!
So
the home of Jersey.
How I got
hip-hop,
the job, it was when I was at PGC. Promoters would call me. It's like, yo, Charles, can you play my record? Can you play my record? Because I had a 5-hour live mix show. So, and I could play whatever I wanted. And I was also a record pool director. So not only did I have an incredible collection of music, I also got imports from the UK.
And you were part of a record pool early on in 85, right?
85 to 90. I was DC's premier record pool, OMAP Records, with Bill Keyard as director and Alan Chasen. So basically, I created a database. When I got to New York, I created a database of all the DJs that played on the radio like me. Because at that time, you had college radio, you had CMJ reporters, and you had Gavin reporters. And then on the dance side, you had Billboard dance reporters. But I just felt like no one's giving credit to the guys that spin on the radio. So I actually, when I got to New York, I created a database of it was like the first collective comprehensive database of all the DJs that mix on the stations. And our consultant in DC was Jerry Clifton. He had 35 to 40 crossover stations. So I had all of those DJs.
Wow.
And as a matter of fact,
this is all like handwritten, like in a Rolodex somewhere.
Yeah, I forgot about the Rolodex.
People don't understand. Like they think
it
it's
was all
like
handwritten.
like there was Excel back then. There wasn't. Everything was like handwritten in a black book or in a Rolodex.
Wait, this is still the time when Tommy Boy still had freestyle artists, right? They were still putting out freestyle records.
They had the Information Society at TKA.
Hey, what's good? What's good? What's good? This is Crooked. We got Jamie the Great here.
Yeah.
We're here to let you know that we have launched our Patreon, and if you fuck with us.
Really fuck with us.
If you really fuck with us.
Some ride or die shit out
Like,
here.
if you're a roadie for life.
Not a casual.
No, I'll take a casual roadie.
Fuck a casual.
I'll take a casual roadie, but if you're a roadie for life, you're going to go to patreon.com/Road Podcast. That's patreon.com/Road Podcast.
One more time for the people in the back.
Patreon.com/Road Podcast.
Yes.
And you're going to sign up. And you're going to get an extra episode with this membership.
Yep.
You're going to get early access to episodes. You're going to see behind the scenes vlogs.
Yep.
You're going to see extra interviews that we've never released.
Whoa, you're giving a lot of free shit going on.
A lot of free shit.
No,
look, this is our opportunity to like further build and enhance our community that we build with y'all. This is like a deeper dive into what we do and what goes on here. And, these extra episodes that we're going to release a month on our Patreon, this is going to go back to kind of the old school Road podcast where we would talk about all our personal experiences and everything that's going on, from gigs to music to,
The foundation of us.
everything.
Everything.
So if you want to show support, go to patreon.com/Road Podcast. That's patreon.com/Road Podcast. We'll see you there.
See you there.
First, I'll just tell you how I got into radio. I was desperate to become a club DJ in DC. So for the record pool, I'm tracking the top 75 DJs in the whole DMV area. I'm talking about every genre, every format, from wedding DJs to underground club DJs, gay DJs, hip hop DJs, and then DC was go-go. So we had the top guys from every single genre. Like DJ Cool, he did the DJ Cool was in there, and then Greg Diggs was the music director of Kiss in DC. So he was in there. I mean, you name it, we had the top guys. All the top Billboard reporters were in there too, from Baltimore and from DC. Like Wayne Davis, he was like the Larry Levan of Baltimore. He had a club called Odell's. And the thing about
you were telling me about Odell's.
Right. Odell's is just it was another underground membership club. And it's funny, that's where we can get into the whole house music, the name house music. Because in DC, we called it Odell's music because it was that sound. And then in New York, you had the Paradise Garage, so that was garage music. In Chicago, Chicago
the warehouse, the
warehouse, yeah, that was house music.
Right.
But everything's house music
That's
now. That's
crazy.
a whole other conversation. But
I didn't realize that.
It was really the playlist, because the record promoters promoted the same records to all the clubs. And the only way you could hear that music that wasn't on the radio was from DJs that were in the record pools. So that's something that a lot of people don't understand. But everything is...
So literally around that time when house was emerging, depending on what city you were in, it was called something completely different.
It was called club music because it started, because you have disco music, that's from discotheques.
Right.
Because the genre always comes from the name of the club. So it was disco music, and then it was just club music. Because as a matter of fact, when I first started DJing, all the clubs were called discotheques. And he would say, we're going to the disco. And there were flyers that said, Disco Skate was actually a club. It was a skating rink that played disco music. So disco morphed into club. And then due to the success of music in Chicago, Chicago house was a genre that was kind of based on the vibe from the warehouse and the power and power plant. But what made it really popular was they weren't really getting any traction at radio in Chicago. But the UK promoters and the UK small shops, they started licensing the music from Trax Records and DJ International from Chicago. And that made all the producer DJs mega stars in London. And then in '87, Steve Hurley did Jack Your Body. It went #1 on Top of the Pops. So now,
in the States?
And everyone wanted to know.
In the States?
No, in London.
Oh, okay.
That's their equivalent of Billboard.
Right.
So when it went #1, then all the journalists was like, what is this house music thing? They called Chicago house music too. And then that's where the whole house music thing, then everything became house. Anything with a 4/4 beat was house. even music from the garage was house. But all of those underground clubs that had that sound, it was a collective of imports, music from New York, New Jersey, pretty much.
I love that. I love that in the DMV though they were calling it Odell's music.
Yeah,
I love that shit.
That's the only way. And there was another club that was similar to Odell's in DC called the Clubhouse. That's where Sam Burns is from. Sam Burns and Mandrill, they were the DJs there. But everyone played at all those clubs across the country. They played the same music. And now it's...
Well, you were saying Larry Levan would come to
he would come to Odell's, and Frankie Knuckles would go to the Paradox in Baltimore because he was after Larry.
So you were there, you were hearing all of it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Frankie Knuckles was actually the light guy for Larry Levan. And when Larry Levan would take long breaks, Frankie had to learn how to DJ. And then Frankie had the opportunity to go to Chicago and open a warehouse. Now, today on everybody's rider, if you're a DJ, you want the Pioneer system as a standard. Back then, you wanted the Richard Long system in the club. So you can take out the bass, you can jack the bass, and take the frequencies out. That was a famous Richard Long system. So all these DJs, how you have the Chitlin circuit where people travel. All the top DJs that played at these underground clubs, they would go to different cities and play on the Richard Long system.
What was the difference with the Richard Long system? Why did it stand out?
I think it was the way it was set up.
The way it was set up, the way it was EQ'd. Like, I'm one of the few DJs that had an opportunity to actually play on a real Richard Long system at Odell's in Baltimore, and it blew my mind because you don't have headphones because the system is so balanced, there's no delay. So as your cue, you just had a click box. It was like a little 8-inch speaker, and you just line up the snares.
Wow.
So you didn't need headphones or anything.
Wow.
And there was no delay.
Didn't Richard Long like invent the coffin? Like the actual like DJ coffin?
I don't know if he's the main inventor.
He had to go mobile.
He had one, yeah.
Right?
He had one, and that's with the Big Bertha system.
Right.
Yeah, out in the Bronx with that Cool Herc used. Yeah, he I guess he was part of it, but there was probably a bunch of engineers as well. But
yeah,
you know, his club system was everything.
I think the last Richard Long system is still in Coney Island.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, the last still functioning one is still in Coney Island.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So around this time, you got into this record pool, right? Was it the what was it?
OMAP record pool.
OMAP record pool.
Yeah. So that
which is everything to anyone who loves music and is interested in DJing and club music. Mm-hmm. You know, in the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s, it was vital to be part of a record pool.
Exactly, because the record pool DJs got the test pressings and the advanced copies before it went to the commercial mom and pop stores that sold 12 inches.
And they got the special extended intro mixes. Like,
exactly.
You know, like there's obviously everyone's playing like the regular versions of all these songs, but you know, people were making club versions, and they would literally like a 4-minute song would be like 8 minutes because they would have a 2 to 3 minute intro, right?
And there were remix services like DIXON and Hot Tracks. There's a bunch of little services that would take records and put those edits in them. So we got that in service in the record pool too. So around, I would say,
was it easy to join a record pool at that?
No. You had to really have skills. The director of the pool would have to go to your club and watch you DJ, see how you work the crowd, all of that. And then they had little sessions. I know in OMAP we had sessions where we would go into this room, and you'd have to pretty much audition.
Really?
You had to be able to DJ, mix, program, all of that.
Oh, so it wasn't about money; it was about exclusivity.
And Bill Keart, he's a great teacher. Like, he taught me some, how to like really put music together and how to think ahead when you're playing. Like, the whole vibe was great.
Because back then the record pools you didn't pay.
Oh no,
it
wasn't a subscription.
No, you had to pay.
Did?
It was a dues.
Oh, there were dues?
Our dues start at $50. Yeah, because
a month or was
it $50 a month?
Yeah. Really?
That's not bad though, considering.
And you got if you were in a good pool, you got everything.
Yeah, but I mean,
but it was worth it. But think about it.
Per record, you're paying $7 or whatever it was.
Records were $4.99 and $5.99, and the imports were like $7 to $12.
Yeah, I get it.
So if you were in a great record pool that had great relationships, then you could get in. You could get, it was worth the money. And how I joined OMAP was I liked dance music, and my partner, he liked this guy, Steady Eddie. He's actually Eddie Broussard. He's actually the guy that started teasing me in college and calling me Sir Charles. That's a whole other topic.
Charles.
Yeah, he was clowning me because he said I look like I come from London. So anyway,
wait, you were just wearing like 3-piece suits in college?
We were wearing that was the era where we would go into like the thrift stores and we call it like grandpa clothes. We had like the tweed, basically how people are dressing now.
Yeah. Tweed
jackets with like skinny cords and jeans, and we wear like hard shoes, dress shoes, and then we have like in the preppy look. We would when Ralph Lauren really hit big, we would have like a turtleneck. Then we put a polo on top of the turtleneck, and then a button down collar over top of that, and then a sweater.
Wow! Like, so you was like Farnsworth, Bentley, Motown, Philly, Boys to Men, and Slick Rick.
Yep, I got pictures of me in college dressed like that,
with a little bit of Carlton.
Yep, and I still dress like that. So anyway, how I got in the pool was I was going to pick up records. Eddie was in the pool already, and one day he told me, "Can you go pick up my records?" So I went to pick up the records, and I realized he was giving me the bum records, and he had the good ones. But he just took most of the more hip hop leaning records and go-go records. I wanted the dance records, so it was a good mix, and we split the dues. So I got there one day, and I was like,
I didn't realize there were go-go records dating back to the 80s.
Oh yeah,
holy shit!
You got to figure Chuck Brown, Bustin' Loose was 1980,
Oof. Wow.
And then Trouble Funk Pump Me Up that everyone sampled and copied. Like, go-go music is like the stepchild of hip hop. It's like people don't realize that a lot of it. I mean, when you had like Shake Your Thing with Salt and Pepper and EU, And Trouble Funk Pump Me Up. Remember the mix that the Pump Me Up scratch mix, and then
pump it.
Yeah, that was one of those records that was sampled everywhere.
Right.
You know, and then even Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, they did a version. And that was like 80, 82.
It's a classic drum loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Okay, well.
And then Rare Essence, you know, Grace Jones, Slave to the Rhythm, that's Rare Essence. And there were a lot of people don't realize, and it's so crazy, is Curtis Blow was like the first rapper to go platinum.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it wasn't it wasn't Sugar Hill again?
From a major label.
Okay.
Sugar Hill was like independent.
Okay.
But he had a lot of money. Curtis had a lot of money behind his project. And Party Time, remember, it's Party Time. That's Rare Essence. He did a tribute to go-go music on that album. People don't even realize it. That was all Rare Essence.
But
and Dougie Fresh, All the Way to Heaven, that's Rare Essence.
Yeah.
Because what would happen in '84 when they had the Fresh Fest in D.C. at the Capitol Center, I'll never forget it, all the local bands would open for the New York rappers. And when they finished, the rapper would come on with just like a reel-to-reel and turntable and the DJ, and the crowd was like just looking at him like they were booing him because the go-go bands, they put on a show with drum solos.
Right.
And Chuck Brown was killing it. So in order to really have people enjoy their performance, they started teaming up with the go-go bands and doing records like LL did Rock the Bells.
Right.
You know? And then Dougie
Over
Fresh.
a go-go beat?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
it was a tribute to go-go because the congos and the drums and Rock the Bells is like go-go.
Oh, okay.
And like I said, Slave to the Rhythm, you know, that's a go-go record. And Kid and Play, they did go-go records.
Wow.
Herbie Lovebug, he sampled go-go. But, you know, that people forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, even Run DMC and all everything.
They all did it.
Hey, yo, what's good, what's good, what's good? This is the R.O.A.D podcast, Reflections of a DJ. We're here in New York City, and we have invaded the Sound Collective. Now, I want to explain what the Sound Collective is. I got my man Lefty from the Sound Collective here. Lefty, thank you for having us and hosting this beautiful studio for us. Exactly what is the Sound Collective here in New York?
Modern, state-of-the-art facility with tons of production gear. And one side of it is you can be a member and you can come here and pay monthly to use the rooms and the gear and sign out time and our space. We have a state-of-the-art studio. We have all these production stations, DJ stations, instrument practicing rooms and such like that.
And you also like teach. You have like classes and sessions, right?
We have intensive programs, short-term programs that people can come and take Saturday classes on DJing, production.
There's like kind of a community building within where there's like DJs, producers, musicians.
Up and coming producers, people honing their craft and learning, and DJs and all these things. And they come here and practice, and we have all the new gear, so they come and check that out and get familiar. And a lot of DJs will come in from out of town, be like, let me get a day pass so I can just get a refresh on the 3000s and the V10.
And what's great is that a lot of our guests, everyone from like Clark Kent to the technician to like Camilo, they come in here and they're just like, holy shit.
You want to play with all the gear, man? Yeah.
I didn't even realize this, but you guys have like studio spaces where people can do live streams and they can do their Twitch streams.
Yep. We got a whole green screen set up already, multicam, full on switcher. Like, we also do a lot of events here. We're bringing a lot of outside talent, organizations. We got a big event coming up with DJ City, Beat Source, and Serato.
That's part of our family.
Yeah. We did a big one last year with them. We got another one coming up.
For our listeners, is there any way we could hook them up with a deal, or, you know, like if they put in a R.O.A.D podcast code?
Yeah, tell me about it. What else do you have in vision for this deal? It sounds like we're well on our way. Why don't you tell them?
You're working with us where they can type in a code for like R.O.A.D.
Yep.
And they'll get a month free, right?
Yeah, on our online platform. We have a whole online platform with like masterclass style education.
Nice.
Different categories and everything, instruments, drums. I mean, and then we have these things that we're launching right now called Pro Paths. So you can choose, like if you're a producer, you can take the Ableton Pro Path, the Logic Pro Path, you know, Serato Studio. Goes through a wide variety of knowledge besides just stuff in that skill set and discipline.
So our R.O.A.D listeners, if you're in New York, you can check out their facility. You can do a day pass, a week pass, a monthly pass. You can check out their site. You have access to all the education online.
Soundcollective.com. We also have a YouTube channel that has some of our content from the educational courses, and all of our events are live streamed and put up there.
I hope we can come back here and use your facilities again.
Looking forward to it.
Shout to Lefty and the Sound Collective. Thank you so much.
No one ever talks about it, but go-go has influenced so much in hip-hop.
It has.
So much.
A lot.
Yeah. It's like
Like I
all
said,
the
when
layered...
Curtis Blow did Party Time, that's a straight Rare Essence record. So it's Slave with the Rhythm. And it's a couple other ones too.
Wait, what's that record? The Butt? Is that
Yeah, that's
is that a
EU.
go-go record? Is
Yeah,
that a go-go
that's,
record?
that's EU.
That's a go-go record, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
It was in the
That's
in the
one
movie.
of the top.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
got to be like
Top
one of
five.
the.
It still,
yeah,
it
yeah,
still plays.
Yeah.
Yep. Spike Lee put it in his movie.
yeah.
So all right. So,
So real quick
Yeah.
before I forget, because it's like a million stories. So how I got in the record pool is one day I was DJing. So I went to pick up the records, and I was like, "How come you guys don't have any rap music?" And OMAT was like a super diverse record pool. It was like half gay, half straight. It was everything. You name it, it was in this pool. And they was like, well, we're more of a dance pool. We don't have the hip hop connections to get those records. And they see us as a dance pool. There are other record pools like Tables Distinction with Eardrum. They get the rap stuff. I said, well, we should get rap stuff too. They was like, well, you want to be a director? I said, what? He said, well, we just fired a director. That desk over there, you can sit over there and call for some rap records. We'll be good. They said it sarcastically. So I was like, all right, I got some numbers. So I called Zakia Records and got records from Zakia, the Eric B. and Rakim, Eric B. for President.
Wow.
Called up the label and was like, yo, we need records. We got top DJs in the area. And I started calling labels. And they started sending records. So next thing you know, we're getting all this hip-hop music. And then
and they were like half serious, or like they were dead serious.
No,
when
they
you
were
came
joking,
in.
but
they were joking, but you took
I made it
seriously.
real. I was like, I can do that. So they made me a pool director, and
The timing of that is crazy.
yep. And then
Facts.
the urban pools, like Tables, like Eardrum, we had a little beef because we were getting records that they couldn't get. And then because OMAT was so out there, and Bill's such a businessman, he would give me the company car or a credit card, and I could go to New York and visit the labels and come back with boxes. So I did that too. So we had everything.
Wow.
And so it was like a beef between the two pools. But then finally, remember I told you I joined the record pool so I could get in the clubs. I had this club called the Dome.
I was going to ask you about the Dome.
Now the Dome it started from scratch, and I was actually with one of the Billboard reporters. This guy, his name is DJ Reggie. He was like the Billboard reporter for DC, and I couldn't get in the club as a DJ, so I was a light man. I figured I can do this. I just push some buttons on the lights. So I'm the light
You started
man.
as a lighting guy.
Yeah, so he's DJing, and I'm just working the lights. And it was fun. Strobes, do the blackout, like mix with the music. I had headphones, so I would mix the lights with the music based on where he was going. So one day, and he was like one of those real super pompous, like I'm the star, like how the EDM guys are now. so someone knocks on the door. This guy knocks on the door, and he's like, I'm starting this new club called the Dome. It's brand new. It was something else before that. I forgot what it was. But he's like, the club holds 1,000 people. It's downtown in D.C. on M Street. And I'm looking for a DJ. And we want to go with this guy because he's like a big DJ Billboard reporter. So I said, okay, hold on. I'm all excited. Reggie, this guy wants to talk to you. He goes, I don't take requests and I don't talk to anybody while I'm DJing. I'm like, okay. So I went back to the guy. I was like, he doesn't want to talk to you, but guess what? I'm a DJ. He's like, well, come down to the club and audition. Went to the club, auditioned, got 4 nights.
Hey.
Wow.
So I have all this music from the record pools. And then also one of my jobs, 'cause I did every job in the pool you could do, I was also the chart editor.
I was gonna ask
I'm
you
the
about
guy
that,
that
yeah.
had to call all 75 DJs and get their top 25 so we can compile it into a top 25 for the entire industry.
So you
So I'm
knew
talking
the top
to every-
25 of every genre.
Yeah, exactly.
And you had all the information and all that chart.
So I put all that together in a beat per minute format where I would start with go-go, hip-hop, going to R&B. From R&B, I would go into like classic club from like, the 80s, Prelude Records, all of that. And then I would go from that into house. And from house, I would go into high-energy disco. That's mainly the whole gay format. And then I would go into techno because I played the hottest records from all the genres. So the Dome was so bananas that, as people got the word out how I was playing, how I was blending the records, if you walk into this club, you would think you were walking into like a Star Wars. Like every corner was a different group of people. Like, those scenes in the Star Wars bar with
Yeah.
aliens. It was like one section was like all African, like Nigerian, Ethiopian, Ghana, that whole section over there. And then this area is all like the Middle East. You had, it was owned by a bunch of Iranian guys, but you have Iranians and Pakistani, well, that part of India. It's like every nationality was in this club. Then you had like the hood, like all of the
street dudes from the
street
neighborhood.
dudes, yeah, the top street guys, like the top dealers. They actually had a table in this club, so they're there. And then you had the military guys, with the, military cuts. They're at the bar buying drinks for the girls. It was like everybody was in this club because I played every genre. So people were just waiting for their favorite song to come on. And then the floor would shift all the time because I'm playing everything.
And that was unheard of at that time.
Yeah, it was unheard of.
Because the clubs and the crowds were more segregated.
Yep. But
because there was mentioning that you kind of changed the sound of DC with the dome.
Well, DC was a quiet storm town on the urban side. I mean, you had rock and you had pop, but DC, like for the black audience, it was quiet storm. You had Donnie Simpson, you had Angela Stribling, and that whole sound of just like slow music on every single urban station. It was like you could fall asleep, but it was good stuff.
It was like ballad, contemporary.
Yep. Good love making music. So that was it. After 7 o'clock, the whole city was shut down.
Wait, so how would the street dudes react when like you would play like something that they didn't know? You know what I mean? Like would they be like, "Yo, take this shit off"?
Well,
like what are you playing?
That's the thing. In this club, the most attractive, most exotic women ever. So if they're dancing, no one was mad.
That is the universal rule of anything.
So what started to happen was
If the women are dancing, it doesn't matter what the fuck a dude wants.
So a lot of fights would break out, and I would see it. Like the guys from the military dudes, and most of those like roughneck military guys, they were buying drinks for the girls, and then the girls would go on the dance floor and dance with the brothers. So in the bathroom, there'd be all kind of fight. It was crazy. But it was a melting pot for the music. So one day, when as I was working at the record pool, I wanted to actually get into radio, so I called a radio station. And actually, that's another story. I got a million stories. How I got to the radio station was the girl I was dating. She was older than me, and she wanted me to, be the chemical engineer. I told you I was majoring in engineering. So when I dropped out of engineering to change my major.
I didn't know you dropped out. University of Maryland,
right?
I
changed my major. Yeah, University of Maryland. So I changed my major, went to American University, which I really couldn't afford. And I didn't have a scholarship there, but I had one at Maryland. But I took some courses, and I told her that I want to go into music. And I'm going to become like an audio engineer because that makes more sense than chemical. Because chemical engineering was like my boyhood dream of wanting to work with my father who drove trucks for Unilever. So when I know I got a million stories. So when I was 18,
it's funny. It's like engineer, but they're completely two different things that have the same name.
So when I was 18 at Maryland, my father comes to me and goes, "Hey son, you want to work with me at my job?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, that's my childhood dream to work with my dad at his job from the 5th grade." So I worked with him, and I said, "Dad, I'm majoring in chemical engineering. It's cool that you're working on the line and everything, but I want to work with the engineers." So, like me, he knows everybody. He called the head engineer over and said, "My son wants to work in engineering."
Yeah.
He's like, "No problem." His name was I think Fred Osmer or something. So I ended up working with the engineers. And I was like, I do not want to be a chemical engineer. This is some dry, boring, it's not me. I want music. Because music was always my escape at college when I'm studying for like thermodynamics and differential equations and all this crazy math and science. I would go to the club to release. So then I fell in love with the music. So back to my girl, she was like, "I can't believe, your deal was you're supposed to go and finish your engineering degree, and then I'm going to go back to school and finish my law degree, and you're messing things up." So I was like, "Well, I don't want to be an engineer anymore. I want to do music, and I want to get into audio." So anyway, so she broke up with me, crushed me, but on her way out, she gave me this little piece of paper. He's like, "Well, there's a station that I grew up listening to called Classy 95. They changed their format to this dance format, stuff that you normally play. So you should call this number and maybe you could get an internship, but I'm out." So she my first response was, "I'm gonna tear this piece of paper up," and just, I was so upset. I think I was sitting on the floor in the kitchen crying because I was like, "I can't believe I messed my whole life up." So I wake up the next morning, I see that piece of paper. I was like, "Oh, what the hell?" I call the station. So I call the station. This woman, Lisa Baden, picks up the phone and says, we're doing an internship. You can do call-out research. So I went to the station, and I'm calling like 400 people a week saying, "Do you listen to this new station? You listen to this new..." So that got boring. So I told the promotion director, Lisa, I said, "Lisa, when the new music director comes in, tell him I'm playing at this club called the Dome. He should come down there." So one day I'm doing this set, and I'm killing it. And I look and I see this little Italian guy sitting at a table sipping on a drink in front of me. It looked kind of weird at first. Like, is this guy like checking me out? This is weird. He's sitting there. So I just forgot about it, ignored him. And then at the end of the night, wait a minute, he's still sitting there. So I'm packing my records up to leave, and he comes up to me and goes, I'm LBD. I'm the new music director at WPGC. I like your set. Would you like to do this on the air? I'm like, what? I was like, on the air? It's kind of like how I got the club gig. I'm like, okay, this guy's not for real. I said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. He said, well, come to the station, and you can start, and I'm going to set up something. We'll do a big launch, and we're going to we're going to have 5 hours live, 7 to midnight. Because they didn't have any sponsors because it was a new station, and their ratings were low, so they were number 22 in the market with a 1.4 share. So it was like, you do whatever you want. Do what you did at the club because you brought everybody together. So I did it. We had a date. I think it was July 28th, 1987. And he said, well, I got one of my friends that's going to open up for you. Not open, but he's going to do a set because he's in town promoting his record. I said, who? He said, Jelly Bean Benitez. I said, what? I said, Jelly Bean's going to spin with me? So
this was at the station, right?
At the station. Right. So the first day of the show, and they didn't, none of the stations were set up for mix shows. So I had to plug into the newsroom. And I had to bring my own equipment to the station because they didn't have equipment.
What did you have back then?
I had 2 Technics 1200s with Stanton 680 EL cartridges and a Numark mixer with a sampler in it. And I also had a hi-fi beta recorder. No, it's hi-fi VHS because I could, on a long play, I could record 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And I used to sell the cassette the for people that wanted parties. I would just sell the video cassette. I'll tell you, my nerd thing stayed with me. I was always on some high-tech, get money high-tech. So that's how I met Jelly Bean, and I was a fan of his, like in '84 when he came with Madonna's album. So I knew all about him and the Mexican and all his records. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at his crate, and I'm like, dude, you can't spin with those records in DC. I said, my records are in chronological order by beat per minute, by genre. So just dig in there and play whatever you want. He was like, thanks. So he killed it.
Wait, what was wrong with his records?
He just had a couple records that he grabbed from New York. It's like that's like I said, just play these records and you'll be good. And he, he's a major DJ. He knew exactly what to do.
Right.
And he was promoting his new album. So he played his tracks with the tracks that I had, and everything was good. Because I like working with DJs. I'm not one of those haters. Or when I team up with a DJ, we work together to rock the crowd.
Yeah.
It's not like this. I'm gonna outdo you, or you're better than me, or I'm better than you. It's like let's team up. Because I always have a team up mentality. I like, I was a comic book nerd too. So for me, it's always like the Avengers, it's X-Men. Use your superpower, I use my superpower, and we'll take over the world. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, what you were doing was pretty much the beginning of open format.
Like, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what people would call open format.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, your mix show, right, basically created like a new template for like other mix shows, right?
It did because the consultant...
Which is a bold statement.
Yeah, but it's bold, but think about it. Jerry Clifton was a consultant. So he had 35 stations that were flipping in they call it CHR, Contemporary Hit Radio, crossover.
Yeah.
So it was like a new genre for radio. And, out of his 35 stations, I was like the test dummy for all the stations he was consulting. So if my mix show worked on DC, he would put a show like mine on all the stations. Of course, I didn't believe that, but one day the chief engineer at the station came to me and said, we're having a conference call with the stations, the other engineers, and we want to know what equipment you're using for the mix. So I told him what I just told you, the Technics 1200s and the mixer, and they ordered that equipment for all 35 of his stations.
Wow.
And stations like The Box was a sister station, Power 106 in LA was a sister station.
This is insane.
So at Power 106 in LA, the program director was Steve Smith.
Yeah.
So when I got to BLS in 92, with Jerry Clifton, a consultant, put me on there, he was a consultant with PGC. Steve Smith took his job when CBS bought PGC. So now Steve Smith from Power 106, who is being consulted by Jerry Clifton, is now the consultant for PGC. So Jerry thought he was going to get Hot 97 when they changed the format from freestyle and they wanted to go into hip hop and R&B.
Yeah.
Because they basically wanted to follow what worked in DC. So Clifton didn't get Hot 97. They gave it to Steve because Steve was part of Emmis. and MS was Hot 97. So Clifton ended up with BLS, and he put me on BLS to do what I did in DC. So around 95, what was really crazy was Calvin Butts. He protested like gangster rap. So the urban consultants for KISS and BLS ended up pulling all the rap music off the station, and they blew out my whole Thunderstorm team because I had
You had a show called The Thunderstorm.
yeah, and it was like it was Jonathan Dunker, Peter Parker, DJ Premier. I got him a gig, and when Premier went on tour with Gangstar, I put in like Pete Rock and Jazzy Joyce. That's how she got her first start.
We have Jazzy Joyce coming up.
Kenny
too,
Parker.
It's crazy.
So, I put a whole team together. A lot of people were mad because it's like, oh, how can you put these guys that, not from here? There's always some static. But I'm like, look, if we have a team of DJs, we can go number one, which we did. But then, like I said, they pulled all the rap off of, in 95, they pulled all the rap off of BLS and KISS. And I was in London. I was doing my show in London on Choice FM. And I got pretty much fired while I was in London on the phone because I played Tribe Called Quest, Digable Planets, and I think the Fugees in my year-end mix. And I wasn't supposed to play rap, so they blew out my whole team, and I was like, whatever.
Oh man,
Wow, you got fired for that.
that was at BLS.
Yeah, because they pulled all the rap. So
Right.
what that did with Steve Smith,
And
the
it's all like conscious native
Right.
tongue rap. Yeah,
right?
It's
So
crazy.
what that did for Steve Smith, now consulting Hot 97 and following the WPGC format. Now Hot 97 becomes where hip hop lives because it wasn't living no place else, and that's what blew it up.
Isn't it crazy how backwards like radio was, because like New York is like the birthplace of hip hop, but there were so many other hip hop stations way before New York even had one. Like I remember the Baker Boys were saying that they were playing hip hop, that they pretty much like came up with the hip hop FM radio thing.
Well, they were saying that they were the Bigger Boys were saying that they were the first commercial radio station to play underground hip hop.
Right.
But that's actually not true because I was in DC,
Right.
and I was on PGC, and I played records before they were the Bakerfield Boys with the big posters where they were like super heavy before they lost all the weight. That's what they were doing. I was putting like all the underground hip hop records, like I said, Zakia records, Eric B. and Rakim, all the Dougie Fresh records, everything, and Go-Go. So, and as a matter of fact, we were the first station to play LL Cool J. He was so excited. He drove down with his wife in his Jeep. I met him in the parking lot of WPGC, and we interviewed him. KISS got so upset, the other station, our competition got so upset that they called all the labels, had a meeting with the labels, and said, don't send any more records to that station that's playing, that crossover station
That's petty.
that's playing urban. Yeah, it was real
That's petty.
So they cut us off, but I'm in the record pool. Not only are we still going to have the records, but now we're going to add imports. Like Soul to Soul, Keep on Moving. That got added. Lisa Stansfield, Been Around the World.
Right.
I brought that from London on half-inch reel-to-reel
Wow.
because her manager was Jazz Summers. So we were playing imports. Rick Ashley, Never Gonna Give You Up. That broke out of PGC too. I got that as an import.
Let me ask you a question though, because you were DJing in the prime of the crack era, right?
Yep.
In these clubs, did any of those drug dealers ever come up to you like, "Yo, make me a mixtape. I'll give you $200 or whatever"? Like,
Now they didn't come up
Nah.
to me, but they loved the music.
yeah, like
They were in the club.
Eric B used to. Who's the one that used to make like specialized DJ like crack dealer mixtapes? I think
All of them.
Yeah, like
A lot of motherfuckers in New York.
Yeah. And I know like dudes from New York had went to the DMV. Like Alpo was down there,
Yep,
Rich
you
Porter.
see that in The Wire.
Yeah, and you see it in Paid in Full too.
Yep, and paid the full.
Yeah. So none of them went up to you like, "Yo,
Well, the king of
I need
the DMV at that time, when Alpo and them were the kings up here, was Rayford Edmonds. He was the man down there. Funny, in the show The Wire, they saw how they kind of pushed New York back to New York.
Yeah.
You know, they're down there with all the high tech weapons, Cavalier vests and all that type of stuff, because that's where that stuff comes through the government. So, DC, Baltimore was pretty much, they were fortified.
I actually want to go back to this Thunderstorm. So when you actually left PGC, right? In the DMV,
Left
right?
PGC in 90, did 2 years at Tommy Boy, and then I got the BLS job when I was at Pendulum Records. With
All right, so
Diggle Planet.
I kind of want to see, I want to know about two things. How you transitioned over to like the labels, and then but also how the technicians formed.
Okay.
During this point, yeah.
Right. So the technicians formed from the relationship originally from the relationship with me and Ricky Lee. Ricky Lee was, like I said earlier, he was the I guess sort of like the guy that got the quotes from DJs, but he didn't have any DJs, and I had a database. So when he found out I had this database, I started at Tommy Boy. We both tapped into the database to get the pick hits for Ricky. Like they would pick songs like, whatever records, well, definitely my Tommy Boy records were on there, like House of Pain and all, and were pick hits. And he started calling different DJs. And like I said, one of our guys passed away, and then he got the budget to actually do a conference call. So that was the top 60 mix show DJs in America on Ricky's call, because they were given the crossover magazines like Hitmakers and Hits Magazine. Remember, you've heard of Hits Magazine?
I remember it vaguely.
So Ricky was the chart guy for mix shows, and he would get the quotes for Hits Magazine. And then, like I said, after our guy passed away, we formed the collective of the 60 top DJs. And then by I guess around 90, by the time I got to MCA Records in 96, we weren't happy with the way the whole Hits Magazine conference call was going, because we wanted to expand. We wanted more DJs. So I teamed up with Ran and Scrap, and we formed the Technicians. And that was the top. It was open. We had like 100 DJs that went to 400.
Wow.
And then to this day, Tony Neal has the core DJs. That's a spinoff from the Technicians. And Latin Prince had the Bum Squad DJ.
Oh yeah, I was just about to bring that up. I was just about to bring up Bum Squad. Yeah.
And then Scrappy had the All Star DJs. But the only DJ organization that's still going, and I think they're up to there are thousands of members now, is the core DJs.
The core DJs.
And that's Tony Neal, so he's the master of that.
So wait, what were you like? How were you guys communicating?
We would do a conference call every week. We had sponsors. The label would sponsor the call. And how it started with Hits with Ricky.
What do you mean sponsor the call? Like you
they
need
would,
a
they
service,
would
right? A conference.
They would basically pay for the line, pay for the time on the call. They would pay the conference center the money. So, and they would get their records mentioned, which is cool.
So how many? There'll be like 400, 100 plus DJs on this call? No.
Well, like I said, when it started with Hits,
Right.
it was 60 of us.
Right.
All the tops, mainly crossover stations, with Ricky Lee, and then when we formed the Technicians, we had like about 200, and it went to 400, and they would all be on the call.
Wow.
And we would get the labels as before to sponsor the actual call.
That's such. I mean, when you look back,
and we were gangster. Like we had Diddy on the call. We had Leor Cohen on the call.
Wow.
We had artists. Whoever was hot.
But that's how powerful you guys are.
That takes us back to what I was saying about A-Marie. So how I was able to launch A-Marie at Columbia, because she wasn't a priority. The priorities were Destiny's Child, and they broke up, so Beyonce was a priority. Vivian Green was a priority on the urban side. Then you also had Nas, who was a priority. Those were priorities. A-Marie wasn't a priority. But, being from D.C. and I liking the sound, and I heard the album, I was like, this is amazing. So the first single they were going to come with was a single called Talking to Me.
It's a great single.
I felt like that couldn't be the first single because it's too... It reminds me of when I was at MCA when they had Shantae Moore, and it's like you thought that Shantae Moore was like 50, but she was 20. I was like, this song is too grown. It could be a second single, but then I heard...
It was like too contemporary?
Right, too contemporary and too old for her. She's like young, like in her early 20s. So when I heard Why Don't We Fall in Love, I was like, well, this record's hot.
So wait, you had an album or you had like an EP? Or?
It was the album. They were,
Wow.
and I said, and I listened to it, and I was like, I like Why Don't We Fall in Love? So they were like laughing at me. It's like, oh, Why Don't We Fall in Love? That record's too short. It was like 2 minutes and 34 seconds.
Short.
So
that's a standard record.
So I said, I can do right. So I said, let me do an edit on it. Let me do a 4-bar intro, and DJs can loop it and do whatever they want. So then they were like, well, okay. And then it's like, well, we should put a rapper on it. It's like, no, because I had that experience at MCA. You put a rapper on the record with a new artist, the song blows up, and now you got to pay the rapper to show up if they can show up, and now you're on the rapper's schedule. So I'm like, nope, I can work this record just the way it is. And they were like, we don't care. Do whatever you want.
So you weren't a part of the Ludacris remix when he
I was.
on that? You were. Okay. That was later though.
Yeah, that was later. So now we got the record, and we had a 4-bar loop. And then when I met with Rich, he was like,
Where's
"What?"
this 4-bar loop? I didn't get one of these.
Yeah, it's in it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because like the only record version I have is the violins, and then it just hits. And
On
then
a
she starts
12 inch.
singing.
On a 12 inch.
On the 12 inch.
Yeah, we had a 4-bar loop and an instrumental.
no.
Because I even put acapellas on all the 12
I didn't. It
inches
was a
that I did.
promo. It wasn't
It was a
the
promo.
It wasn't the regular.
No, it was a promo.
I never got the promo.
So,
Okay.
so they were basically like, do whatever you want. So it's like, okay, cool. So then I met with Rich, and he was like, "This is ridiculous. This is an interlude, bro. This isn't a single." I was like, "Well, we're gonna put the
Rich Harrison.
Yeah, so we're gonna put the 4-bar loop in it."
Did you know of Rich Harrison? Or you,
I knew of him because he was a producer with Chucky Thompson in DC, but we never met.
Chucky Thompson from the Hit?
Yeah.
The Hit Squad? The Hit Factory.
Yeah, I think it's Hit Factory.
Yeah.
So then, when he came up to New York, so we went in the studio, and he's like, "That's all you need is a 4-bar loop?" I said, "Yep," because what's going to happen is DJs and producers are going to loop that, and they're going to put rappers on it because it doesn't have a rapper. And every record that's for a new artist seemed like they want a rapper, but I didn't want to do it that way because the video, I didn't want the rapper in the video. I didn't want any of that. So originally, like I said, they wanted Talking to Me to be the single. I wanted Why Don't We Fall in Love, so they let me do it because they didn't really care. So it's funny because years later, I had a conversation with A. Marie. I don't think she even knew what was going on.
Right, of
Because most artists, they don't know. So
They're
she was
oblivious.
she was on some site, and she was saying that that Why Don't We Fall in Love was always the single. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. If Why Don't We Fall in Love was always the single, then why was there a video for Talking to Me first? And then Why Don't We Fall in Love video, and then when Talking to Me became the second single, they shot a brand new video. But I
they
saw
did
their
shoot a brand new video.
because their plan was to put Talking to Me out. And I'm like, no, Why Don't We Fall in Love? So in order to get that record going, I called on my team, the technicians, and Columbia sponsored an event out in Vegas for our technicians convention, and A. Marie came out, and the rest is history. Everyone fell in love with her, and
Wow.
that at that time with the technicians, we could literally have 100 DJs at different radio stations across the country playing a record.
So you single-handedly shopped the record to your crew of technician DJs.
Yeah.
And you were able to get it played on all of these radio stations across the country.
Yep,
And these DJs believed in the record,
Yeah.
not only because it sounded good,
yep,
but for two reasons. You put a 4-bar intro.
Mm-hmm.
You made it easier for them to play. And not only that, they trusted your word. And, you had all of this power.
But guess what came
You
back
know?
from the 4-bar loop? Just
What?
like I said.
Yeah.
From Cameron to you name it, everyone was looping it and putting rappers on it. So that's when we said, we'll put like Luda on it. But Luda was on, I think, the Talking to Me mix. Maybe he was on.
Nah, he was on. I'll play it for you right now.
Oh, Why Don't We Fall in Love? He was on it?
Yeah.
Okay, so so he ended up being the official rapper on it.
I mean, he was hot. He was really hot.
Oh
at
yeah,
that time.
absolutely.
I mean, but it was also a danceable record, bro. It
Yeah.
was like
90 beats per
Not only
minute.
that, but
Yeah.
it was the music video was like perfect.
Oh yeah,
You know,
it was perfect.
It was perfect, and
It was like the whole girl next door thing. It worked. I mean, they listened.
did
They
you
listened.
realize you had that power with that crew, with the
No.
technicians crew?
No,
Because it was just so organic. It was just you guys were just
Yeah, we
you
were.
loved the
we
music.
were
and-
frustrated with the industry. We were frustrated that the Gavin, CMJ, college DJs got all these props, and nobody was really checking for mix show. So
Right.
that was always like a beef. Like, we're gonna be strong. We're gonna be powerful, and we were. We took over.
But some of these labels understood that. You said you had Diddy on the
yeah.
call, Leo Combs. So when would they hop on the call to just like shop a song or shop
Yep.
an artist?
to promote, and then
What
we
was-
had
like, who was Diddy
Ricky,
trying to shop?
Ricky Lee was awesome. He knew how to get these top level executives on the call and get them to sponsor the call. And they would put their artists on, and
It's so crazy thinking about it now.
But you know
with
what's crazy?
Zoom and everything, that
crazy.
But-
you would need someone to sponsor a phone call between 400 DJs.
yeah,
that's crazy.
because you didn't have that.
That technology was like unheard of.
Yeah.
it was.
And then you had to go to like a legit conference room, right? Like
No,
some,
no, I mean,
some
it's-
people.
No, they would patch everybody in.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
They would patch
okay.
everyone.
But it was the fact that they would.
But it was a company that
Yeah.
did that, and we had to pay the company to
Oh.
do that.
Because it's a regular telephone. I mean, everyone was like on like
Right,
dial-ups.
right.
Yeah,
So
House
for a
phones,
company
right?
a company to be able to get 400 lines across the country into one conference call is insane.
and
It's
then
an
we had to
insane
do a
thought.
roll call. We called people because someone like you hear beep beep beep. Okay, who just logged in? So you had to everyone that came in had to say who they were.
Oh, man.
It was awesome.
And it's And I'm forgetting everything was long distance.
Yep.
It must have been hundreds of dollars for that one.
That's why exactly.
Yeah.
See, now
That's
you
crazy.
see that's why we had to have sponsors.
That's crazy.
Like almost $1,000 per call, maybe. That's crazy.
It was the bills were bananas.
Imagine Flex was probably in his like Mercedes on the phone.
No, I don't
And a
think-
tag job Mercedes.
Flex wasn't on. He wasn't.
Nah,
he
no, I'm
wasn't
just
part
kidding,
of the
but-
technicians.
Yeah.
Nah, he was Flip Squad, right?
He's Flip Squad. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had his own little crew, but our crew was massive, and we were powerful.
So this Amory thing happens. You're
So-
with Rich Harrison, right?
So now, Why Don't We Fall in Love blows up, and then we come with Talking to Me, and that was around the time that Beyonce had the single Work It. So true story.
That was the Austin Powers Gold member single.
Yes.
Yeah.
So true story. I'm brand new to the company. I'm having some success. So
This is
now
Columbia. Yeah.
Columbia. So when I was at Columbia, I got invited by my boss, Lisa Ellis and Charlie Walk, to Donnie Einer's Wednesday marketing label meeting with all the department heads. And since I'm the senior director, I was invited. And it was like everyone was afraid of Donnie because he's like, he had that whole mob persona, and he was like, it was like a talk show host because we were on camera with the West Coast. So imagine a plasma screen and you have a desk in New York with 30 people on this desk, and it ended at the wall, like where that TV is.
What year is this? Is this like a video call?
Yeah, this is in 2001.
Oh, this is early days.
Yeah, so on the other side of the wall, you can see the LA team, and they had a table with 30. And then Donnie's in LA, and he's like, he was in New York. So, and then he had the LA team. So then he's going around, and people are, well, Donnie, this record is doing this and doing that. He goes, what's happening in marketing? What's happening? Then out of nowhere, he goes, new guy, what's up with this Beyonce record? And I was like, I see, he can't be talking to me because he doesn't even know me, and I'm just here as an observer, so I'm just chilling.
Right.
He goes, new guy, DJ guy. And I'm like, oh, shit.
That's
So I'm
me.
like, so he goes, what's up with this Beyonce Work It record? And I said, no pun intended, Work It's not going to work for me in the clubs. I said, but let me tell you why. I'm not being negative. It's just that the record is not a record like Beyonce leaving Destiny's Child and doing a sound like Independent Women, Bills, all the records that they had that were hits. They were club hits. This record just sounds like it's from the movie.
Right.
And it's like an Aretha Franklin
It
sort
had
of
like
vibe.
it had a nostalgic feel.
Yeah, it's
to
like
it,
Aretha Franklin. It's like a 70s record. I was
Yeah.
like, this is not a good transition for her coming from Destiny Child. And that's my opinion. So after the meeting,
I mean, it's a good record, but it's not gonna,
no, I thought it was a horrible record.
You didn't
I didn't
like
like
it?
anything about it. I didn't like the way she was singing. I didn't like the song. Her vocals were pretty decent.
That was the Neptunes too, right?
Yeah, the beat was, but I just didn't like the vibe for her.
Right.
But wasn't Gold Member like the movie like based in the 70s?
Yeah, no.
That's
Well,
why. That's why.
it
That's
worked
why I
for
was
the
like a
soundtrack.
Aretha Franklin 70s record.
But what he's saying is that Columbia was treating that like this is a debut single for
Exactly.
Beyonce.
So check this out. You're gonna love this. So after the meeting, my boss and my boss's boss, who was Charlie Walk, the EVP, my boss was the senior VP, and the EVP pulled me aside. Then Charlie takes me in his office and said, look, you're new here. We're gonna show you how we do at Columbia. This record, first of all, don't be negative in that meeting. And I was like, I wasn't negative, to being honest. And he's like, we have a budget. We have a $600,000 promotion and marketing budget for this record. For
that record.
It's going to blow up. We're going to have all the indies on it. We're going to have all the stations on it. This record's going to be massive. And I said, nope. I said, I'm from radio. I'm going to tell you what the record's going to do.
You didn't believe in that record
At all.
Jump. Are you the reason why I had to buy like a London press or a UK press of that record?
Probably because, there was a promo, but it never even made the Dangerously in Love album. I hated that record. I still hate
So
it.
you didn't approve it to get into vinyl
Yep.
as a regular
Nope.
single?
Yep.
That's-
I sure
I had
did.
to
I don't-
buy
I'm-
like
I'm gonna be
a
honest
UK
with
press.
y'all.
So-
I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't even know the record. Like I know of, like I can see
Yeah.
the video, but I don't.
I mean,
know.
the video,
So,
it was packaged and it was presented amazing. You had Neptunes producing it.
Right.
It should have been on paper as a resume, a certified hit.
Right. So this is what
Right.
happened. So I'm in
But it's
the
not.
meeting with him, and he's telling me what they're going to do and how much money they're spending, like a $600,000 budget.
That's
for
almost
this
$1 million.
record. So I was like, this is what it's going to do from my experience at the labels and radio. It's going to be #1 most added, but it's not going to get any spins. It's going to enter the Billboard Top 200 probably around maybe 60s or 70s, and it's going to drop to like the hundreds and then off the chart. And he laughed at me. So 2 weeks later, it entered at 69, dropped to 119 and off the chart.
Exactly what you predicted.
Exactly what I predicted. So instead of them coming to me and saying, Charles, you were right, it was like, let's send Mark Jordan. And Mark Jordan, he was like the head of urban promotion. So he comes to me, he's in my office. I always work late. Came in late, I was supposed to be to work around 10. I would come around 12 because I'm at the clubs. And I would work at 8 o'clock. So he comes to my office at 8. He's like, Charles, yeah, we're going to need some help with this Beyonce record. I'm like, okay, what do you suggest? Because we need a hit record. So he goes, can you call? He said, you're doing a great job with A. Her album's gold. Can you call A. Marie's producer, Rich Harrison, and get a production from him? So I was like, hold on. I'm going to call him right now while you're here. So I call up Rich. I was like, Rich, how you doing? He's like, I'm great. I said, A. Marie's blowing up. I said, look, we need a track for Beyonce. So he goes, I got just the track. So I was like, okay. He's like, I'll hook you up with Mark and you can send it to him. He's like, I'll send it. And that was that.
That was Crazy in Love.
That was Crazy in Love. So he sends him Crazy
So
in Love.
was A. Marie on that record?
No. Basically, what Rich did with all his demos, he would sing in falsetto. And he would sing the record the way he wanted to be sung, and he wrote the record.
So he was the reference track
He's a reference track
for
right.
Crazy in Love. So he wrote that.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
He wrote the whole thing. Now Beyonce, when she recorded, like most artists, they'll do a bridge. Like Beyonce wrote the bridge, but all artists do that because they got to put their flavor on it.
Right.
And Beyonce took his style to a whole other level. And
so the uh-ohs were already in there. The uh-oh.
She may have added that. Like she added some ad libs. She changed it. She changed the track and she wrote. But the lyrics and the melody was already there.
Did you hear it first?
Yeah, I heard it.
The reference track?
I heard it.
Do you have the reference track?
No, I don't have. They didn't give.
Yo, that'd be sick, right?
Mark Jordan.
I need that reference track.
Jordan had
with
it.
Rich Harrison. Rich Harrison's one of my favorite producers.
But when
I need that reference track. I want to hear him singing.
After the conversation we had, I guess I learned 2 years later when I checked my Twitter that the Beehive was coming for me, and it's like I was like, okay, this was 20 years ago. The head of the Beehive, he may have been 10. He may have been in the 5th grade. I was like handling grown man business at a label as an executive. I know what I'm talking about. And this is one of those calls where people wouldn't know because this wasn't like a public thing. It wasn't even a label thing. They just, the guys like, call Rich, get a record. Now, A. Marie's album was gold. She was doing extremely well. So Rich started working on her new album. Rich didn't know that I was going to call him for Beyonce.
So
that track, Crazy in Love, it had to be
for her new album.
Because what do you do when you're a new producer and you're making a name for yourself in your first gold album and you did it a year and a half ago and now you're working on a new track for your artist? But what people don't know is based on A. Marie's success, the label wanted to sign her directly to Columbia, which means she'd have to break her contract with Richcraft and sign directly because
she was signed to Richcraft.
Yeah, so I think that pressure from that and the fact that Columbia wasn't really supporting him, you're trying to basically take my artists. So, and I think, I don't know for a fact, but I think A. Marie may have been down with, she's moving like her manager wants to move because her manager was friends with, my boss. It was like one of those things. And I think that's probably how she got the deal through the manager, through the relationship with my boss. A. Marie gets a deal. So I think Rich was probably pissed that, the thought of him losing his artist. So he just probably took that track and was like, oh, Beyonce? Oh, that's a good move for me. Boom. But he didn't sit there and write a track for Beyonce. Just like another example was Rich, based on the success with Crazy in Love, he wrote 5 songs for Janet Jackson. And I think some people got in Janet's ear and said, those are Beyonce throwaway tracks. So she rejected all the tracks that Rich wrote and produced.
Don't tell me what was in those 5.
So I could tell you one of the songs, a song called Pops Up. And it got leaked on the internet. And I heard it. And I grabbed it for my artist Chanel after I left Columbia. And then, of course, Janet shut it down. Her and JD shut it down when I was in mastering. That's a whole other story.
That's Matt Petty.
So I had to come up with I Fell on the DJ for A. Marie. Chanel. That was going to be my second single, but I had to go with I Fell in with DJ as the first single because the single that the CEO of Virgin wanted was Pops Up, which was a song that Janet recorded and then shut it down. Now, she didn't write it. She didn't produce it. She just recorded a demo and rejected it. But because her lawyer was Donald Passman, the label, Virgin got the letter from Donald Passman saying cease and desist on the song because Janet's vibe or essence was on it. I was like, this is crazy. So that's a whole other story.
There's so many politics. There's so much.
Oh yeah, it's all
shit
politics.
behind it.
Yeah.
It's all politics. It's not about music. So back to the Crazy in Love record. So I was excited about it. Mark Jordan was excited about it. And we had a meeting, and I guess they were pissed off at Rich because Rich wouldn't give up A. Marie and wouldn't release her from his deal. So now they're hating on the record. They're like, this record's terrible. And then my boss, who's from D.C., she was like, it's a go-go record. That's regional. This record's not going to happen. Wow. So then Dave McPherson was coming from Jive for the Columbia Records, Epic Records merger as I guess a department, like a co-VP with my boss, Lisa. And he was at Jive, so he was working with R. Kelly. So he said they would get behind the project if R. Kelly did a duet with Beyonce. Meanwhile, Matthew Knowles was sitting in my office going like, they don't like my Dangerous in Love album. They think it's weak. They think it's mediocre because she didn't have that hit. She had the Sean Paul record and Baby Boy, and then Naughty Girl, but they didn't think the record was.
But they also
was
had
hot.
Me, Myself, and I, right?
Yeah. So
Was that Scott Storch, I think?
right, Scott Storch, right. So I was like, well, come on, Math, you got to have something that I can work with to try to bring the vibe back. So he said, Beyonce did an answer to 50 Cent in the club. You know, that was the record.
Yeah.
So, and I still have that. We have test press. I still have that. Now I can play that for you. So Beyonce answers.
I have that
50
too,
Cent.
yeah.
Right. So I was able to leak that to bring her buzz back with the DJs and with my technician.
Wow, interesting.
So
So you're the one that leaked that.
yeah.
Okay, do you know
But
what
I
he's
wasn't
talking
supposed-
about?
I wasn't
Wait, so
supposed
Beyonce's on the In the Club beat?
No, so
Yes.
yeah. So
And they couldn't clear it because it was Interscope.
yeah, but 50 Cent obviously came out in the club. It
Right.
was a huge record.
Right.
And then there was a Beyonce version that was on it. And we were like, yo, this shit, she was killing it.
Yeah.
We were
shit.
playing that version, but it was only on a bootleg.
Yep.
Wow.
So what happened with
But
the bootleg?
I heard that 50 actually, or Interscope, they shut down that record because
did.
they were like, if Beyonce's on the In the Club record, it's going to overshadow 50.
Of course.
And I heard that they shut it down because of
They
that.
did, but
wow.
but how I was able to get it past our legal department at the label. Me and OJ Wedlock, OJ ran the street teams and I ran the mix show, so we teamed up. And I was like, "This is what we're going to do. We're going to get a budget from the label. We're going to press this up, and we're going to say it came from Rock and Soul, and we're going to put it out, and then we're going to mail it to our mailing list." So that's what we did, and it got 800 spins
So
in
you
1 week.
You leaked it to Rock and Soul.
No,
No,
we
he
said it. We
said it.
blamed it.
Oh,
We
we
said that
blamed
Rock
it.
and Soul, because they would do bootleg.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, right? So,
Hi, Shirley. Hi, Shirley.
so well, I love her. But
Hi,
I mean,
Shannon.
that was a vinyl era, and like that was all promo. Nothing was really royalty based. That's a whole other story. But anyway, so we did blame it on them, and we put it out, and
Rock
I
and
serviced the technicians once again, and the record got 800 spins on BBS, and it was a hit. So it brought her back, and then that's when they had me call Rich to get a real single.
Wait.
That
Did
couldn't be-
Interscope send them a cease and desist?
Probably, yeah, because we knew we couldn't.
And they had no idea what they were talking about,
But
right?
we knew that. Well, they know, but Beyonce was. They didn't believe any of that bullshit. They knew that we did it. They just couldn't prove it. So
Allegedly.
yeah, allegedly, everything I'm saying today is allegedly.
Is allegedly.
If I don't say allegedly is automatically implied.
Yeah.
That's my disclaimer. So anyway, so the record's blowing up. So then that's when they called me to get a record, and then that's when I called Rich. So we had a meeting, and they didn't like the record. So then
This is Crazy in Love.
We're Crazy Love, right? And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? So my boss is like, we just shot a video to Me, Myself, and I. That's the Focus record. So I'm like, that record is 84 beats per minute, and we're not going to be able to even do a remix of it. And I don't know what to do with this record.
So typically, and I don't mean to cut you
Mm-hmm.
off, but just a disclaimer for like some of the younger audience out there.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, the rollout for pop artists or R&B or hip hop artists is you have the hit single first,
Right.
and then you have the ballad either second or third single, right?
Right.
You never hit them with a ballad as a first single for an R&B artist, right?
Well, they do it and they fail.
Yeah.
But this was going to be the official first single because they didn't like Crazy in Love. So Crazy in Love really to the label didn't exist, but I had promos of it and I sent it out in like February. I sent it out in February, and then I went to the Winter Music Conference in March, and I came back, and that's when they did the merger, and I was the first person in HR getting laid off. And I believe that was because, I was really rebellious. I'm like, I did what I want to do, and, I didn't follow the flow. I told them that me, myself, and I wasn't going to work, and I'm going to keep promoting Crazy in Love because I got a buzz on it. I can't shut that down. But what made it worse for the label was now you have this Crazy in Love record. They didn't want to do the R. Kelly thing, so Beyonce's like, "Well, I'm putting Jay-Z on the record."
Oh yeah, I was just about to ask.
So
that.
then the Jay-Z
wait.
version comes.
Can you go back a little bit?
Sure.
Because we never even explained why that Beyonce said no to the R. Kelly record.
Well, but she said no to the R. Kelly record because she had already planned to work with Jay-Z. They were already working on, working together, collaborating. Remember the record? They did a record.
Yeah,
what's the record they
03
did?
Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde. So
Right.
they already had that working relationship.
I don't want to hear that. He was hitting it already. That's what, that's what it was.
Who knows?
Wait. No. And I think, was this around the time when R. Kelly and Jay were beefing a little bit? Because R. Kelly pulled out of the Best of Both Worlds tour.
Yeah.
I don't think it was about that
I don't
time,
think.
no?
I think that was
think
way
it was
after.
after.
That was
way
after, right?
Way
Yeah, I
after.
think that was after.
Because a whole lot of stuff was connected to that.
But
'cause-
I've heard, allegedly, I've heard rumors of Jay-Z just kind of controlling. I heard he hated the fucking Baby Boy record, just because of Sean Paul.
probably.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably. I mean,
Like there were, there's an.
Like he doesn't like Sean Paul. He just doesn't like dancehall.
I think there was a moment where Sean Paul in the music video, and even when they performed it live, that Sean was just getting a little too close to Beyonce.
Yeah, he was protecting his girl.
Oh, yeah.
And
his
then
joint.
Jay was like, "Yo, like you never performing that record.
Ah.
You're never gonna be on stage with, So I can
Yeah.
imagine.
But that's smart because
Yeah.
these guys, when you have a girlfriend like Beyonce, everybody wants that,
Right.
and her level of naivete. Maybe someone can convince her to do something she shouldn't do.
So imagine Beyonce.
Sean Paul's pretty smooth,
Right.
So Jay was smart to do that.
No, but it's a culture thing because dancehall performances are very risque.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's a
But,
culture
but
thing.
now imagine Beyonce going to Chicago to record with R. Kelly for a week.
Oh yeah.
And Jay's just gonna be like, "Yeah, it's not happening."
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was.
But I think even other than that, I just didn't think
This
it
is all
was.
like
alleged.
we're just making this shit up though.
But I think it could have been a possibility for something like that to happen if she didn't already plan to put Jay on the record,
Right.
And already planned to have this record as the record.
So she wanted to work with Jay, but Jay wasn't necessarily going to be on Crazy in Love, right?
No, I think that was the plan.
That
we
was
just
the plan.
didn't know because Beyonce wanted to do that.
So when you were pushing and you were shopping this record, you were giving the DJs Crazy in Love. Jay wasn't on it yet.
No, he was on it, but
Okay.
talking about initially, he wasn't on it.
Right.
And
It was just
when
Beyonce.
she told him no, she wasn't going to do it with Kelly, and then that's when she revealed the whole Jay-Z thing, and then they really got upset because now more politics kicks in because the marquee artist on Columbia was Nas. So imagine after Ether, Nas is like, okay, so wait a minute. They gave me a single with A. Marie, but you want to put Jay-Z, who I defeated with the Ether record, on a Beyonce record with a budget?
Right.
So he was upset. So
Columbia
then they said,
Records.
Right. So then they said, Charles, stop promoting the record. I'm like, it's already out the bag. DJs already like it. How can I pull that back and tell them to promote a record that's 84 beats per minute?
Right.
So,
and Nas is like the biggest rap artist on Columbia.
yep, he's the marquee.
Right.
So, long story short, I got laid off.
You got laid off because you were pushing a Beyonce record
With Jay-Z
that,
on it.
that they weren't approving. And
Allegedly.
not only that,
No, that's not even allegedly. They weren't approving
they
it.
weren't
Oh, wow.
approving. And not only that, it had Jay-Z on it.
Yep.
Who was the arch nemesis of their number one rapper on that label.
Wow.
And you didn't listen to them to push Me, Myself, and I, and you continued to push Crazy in Love.
I only did stuff that made sense.
Right.
And that didn't make sense to me. And I'm like, I'll deal with the consequences. So I get laid
you're
off.
You're on a conference call with the technicians.
Yep.
And you're like, keep pushing Crazy in Love.
Yes. So then now I can tell you the date, March 23rd, 2003.
Wow.
At 11 a.m., I go to HR and it's like, we're not firing you. We're laying you off because the merger has different people and job duplication. I was like, first of all, nobody can do what I do, whatever. I'll just be home. But the way my contract was set up, if they were ever to lay me off or fire me before my time, they had to pay me the rest of my entire contract in a lump sum. So I got that, started my own production company, Skip Records, and I was home. And Matthew calls and he's like,
Matthew Knowles.
Matthew Knowles calls. He's like, I can't believe
father.
I can't believe you're not at the label. He's like, I want you to keep this record going. So I was like, well, I charge for that now. So he cut me a check and he was like, keep it going and anything else. I said, well, I'm going to do Naughty Girl, Baby Boy, and Crazy in Love. So this is March. Now, this is a crazy thing. So
Wait,
March,
you're
April,
pushing
May,
all
June.
three.
Yeah, I'm pushing all three, but mainly I'm keeping Crazy in Love, keeping the ball in the air with the technicians. And so that's March, April, May. By June, the record was on fire. The label, now they have to do something. So I think in May, they shoot a video to Crazy in Love. Now, normally, when a record is released, they shoot the video immediately. They took 3 months before they shot a video.
Right.
And then they try to take credit saying that they believed in the record all along, which they didn't, because they would have shot the video before they shot Me, Myself, and I video.
Wait, was Missy on that record, or that was just the AM edit?
What are you talking
on
about?
Crazy in Love?
No, she wasn't on the record.
She wasn't on
Oh, so it was just an AM edit then?
Yeah, it's probably an edit.
The one that he played on Power 106?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she wasn't.
I was about to say, because when did Missy come into the mix? But I guess he just made an edit to it.
So the video that they did for Crazy in Love was kind of similar to the A. Marie video, which it should have been because, that was a good idea, and then the dance that Beyonce did was that just turned that song changed the game. It changed the whole trajectory of the project because that project was in trouble. The label wasn't feeling it. They wasn't really feeling the Rich record. They're telling me. I even called my boss when I was excited. I'm laid off at home. Come on, this record's really really blowing up. She goes, "You like that record?" I'm like, "This record's a smash." So boom, the record blows up. Of course, they take credit for it, but really it was the way Beyonce, when she put her magic on that song and Rich's style just went to the next level. And after that success, Rich is blowing up, and then A. Marie is slowly fading because her new manager, it's funny, her manager was the A&R for Nas. So now the manager is with A. Marie and he's managed her now. Then he leaves the company and now he's directing her project. And he really wanted her to be like Mary J. Blige and sing over these hip hop beats. And I was just like, I
don't think the vocal range was good for that.
It wasn't.
It
wasn't.
It wasn't soulful enough.
Exactly. So being separate, and then she stopped working with Rich. So that was the chemistry. It's the right producer with the right artist, and it just went down. And she did other records. She even left Columbia, went to Def Jam under L.A. Reid.
But she had one last record with Rich, which is One Thing.
I'll tell you about that one. So,
but before you get into One Thing,
okay.
I want to know behind the scenes. Was A. Marie a little tight about Crazy in Love being given to Beyonce, knowing that it possibly could have been one of her songs for the new album?
I think at that time, I don't think she even knew because Rich was just working on a bunch of stuff.
Right.
I don't think it was an issue then. It was an issue when it blew up and she was working with Chris more so than with Rich more so than giving Rich that track, giving Beyonce that track. It was just like that was the sound. That was the guy that pretty much launched her career and her style. And now it's working with Beyonce.
So there wasn't anything internal going on between A. Marie and Rich at all?
I think Rich was probably kind of disappointed because she stopped working with him. They just kind of went there. Artists do that. Artists always like to leave the first person that they work with and try to go bigger. Artists like to jump.
Well, she left after One Thing. Or was it before that?
One thing was on the next album. So that was a batch of the tracks that were already done.
Okay. But by that time, she had already left him, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
Because he
that was
would have had
already
more
done.
of a dominant production presence on that second album, right?
Yep.
Did he do Paradise with her and LL? Or that was
No,
No, that was another producer.
it was another
okay.
producer. But
That was a good track too.
but the thing that was going on was that, you know, Beyonce had Crazy in Love, and then Jennifer Lopez had Get Right.
yeah.
So I think maybe from A. Marie's, you know, perspective, and maybe her management's perspective, is that this wasn't an A. Marie sound anymore with Rich Harrison, that it was like becoming too trendy, or everyone was like getting this sound. Do you think that could have been a
No,
possibility?
I think a lot of those songs that Rich did could have been for A. Marie, but they split, you know? And I think that was, and then, you know, when you split and then you made the wrong decision and then you see these other artists blowing up with your producer, I think that's where the real, you know, issue came from.
Yeah, because there was a bunch of Rich Harrison songs with A. Marie that leaked. And I remember I had the bootlegs, but they never released.
Yeah,
There was like two or three that I don't even know if they were on the album. They leaked, and we were just like, we loved it because,
Yeah.
you know, it was Rich Harrison. It was like OG Rich Harrison and A. Marie.
What I think, like I said, and this is just, you know, my opinion, I think once Columbia couldn't get Rich to release A. Marie, then I wasn't there to fight for her. Because it's funny, one of the guys, after I was laid off, one of the guys that was in international marketing, he was like, yo, Charles, because I saw him when I was in London. He was like an English guy. So because I had a radio show in London. So one day I ran into him. I was like, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I live here. And I was like, oh. He's like, Charles, funny story, man. Remember back in the A. Marie Beyonce days? I was like, yeah. He was like, yo, every time they were ready to just shelve A. Marie, you started working with her, and then they had to deal with it again. Because one thing was rejected. Another crazy story. So I'm at home. I'm chilling. This is after the success of Crazy in Love. I get my doorbell rings. I come to the door. It's A. Marie and her manager. It's like, we want to play a song for you to see whether you can promote it independently. Now you have your independent promotion company. I said, okay, let me listen. So I sat in the car and I listened, and they played one thing. They said this record was rejected like in the summer. And this was like the fall. They rejected the record. I was like, wait a minute, they rejected this record? I said, this record is incredible. So Lenny was saying, well, you know, J-Lo wants the record, and she wants this record, and I think we should give it to her. Because I remember when A. Marie did the First Daughter movie, so she wanted to get into acting.
Okay.
So J-Lo was like, yeah, you know, I can get you, you know, give me this One Thing song and, you know, prove for Rich, and then I can help you with your acting thing. So
Wow.
So they asked my opinion. I was like, look, if you give up this record, this may be your last shot to have a major hit. I said, you sound amazing on it. This record is crazy. So it's like, well, can you promote it? I was like, hell yeah. So they gave me a budget, and they wanted me to promote it. And then, you know, I ran it through my network. I think at that time I had, like, including the record post, I had like 3,000 DJs.
That was a priority on the next technicians conference call.
Yep. So, and back in those days, like we talked about 2001, I was one of the only promoters that knew how to really send out MP3s. So I didn't have to pack up stuff and put packages together and send out the vinyl.
No budget, yeah.
I would send MP3s out. And that's how I was able to get One Thing going. So
Back to
once
the
again,
nerd
about
in you.
3 or
Shout to the
4
nerd
months
in you.
passed, and now One Thing's blowing up. So I called the management. I was like, okay, now you can pay me my money, the rest of my money. And they were like, oh, you got to get that from Columbia. So I called Columbia, and they're like, you didn't have anything to do with this record at all.
What?
Wow.
Yep, that's how they played me. So Lenny and A, they made it up. You know, they had me do one of her listening part. I DJ'd some event for her, so they paid me. So I got paid. So that was cool. But these labels, and I wasn't mad at the new person doing promotion because they didn't know what I was doing. Because it was
Right.
like everything I did was like, you know, on the low, and these records would just like blow up, and people didn't know how they were happening. But it's funny how today, after this year was like my 37th year of having a mix show program on the radio. I don't even know anyone's done that since '87.
Wow.
And I noticed today they don't call DJs. And it's easier to get to them now than when I started. At Tommy Boy, I had to call the radio station, leave a message for whoever's DJing, and wait a week for them to call me back. Now you can go on social media and you can create a database like easily, very easily. So it's just crazy now. I think that element's gone because nobody calls me.
Right.
And I've always had like pretty much of it. Now on Sirius XM, my show is, I do an hour mix and it replays. I do an hour mix for Friday, 11 a.m., which it went off today. But today I was on my disco vibe, so I did like a disco flashback to the garage type of set. But it replays tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Saturday. And ironically, my show at 8 o'clock leads into Jelly Bean at 9.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
What station is this?
Channel 54 on Sirius XM.
Oh, nice.
The Studio 54 radio channel. Oh. So it replays Monday at 6 p.m. during traffic, and then Tuesday at midnight, which is on the LA time, that's 9. And then my 6 o'clock show is 3 o'clock, and then my Friday show is 8 a.m. in LA. So I'm getting calls from all over the country. I'm getting some good bookings from all over the country. So it's a good look.
I love it.
Even though I'm doing the whole Studio 54 vibe, but I'm playing new music that sounds like the old music, and remakes and re-edits and remixes of the old stuff with the new stuff.
It's crazy, like how mistreated and unappreciated you were at Columbia. And
well,
like, I can't
I wasn't
even
alone.
imagine.
They did that to everybody. Most of the majors, like I worked at 2 majors, MCA and Columbia. And then like Tommy Boy was independent, Pendulum was independent. MCA and Columbia were the 2 majors that I worked for. And I'm telling you, I used to hate the staff meetings because I would literally be, with my position, covering the DJs and being involved with A&R and promotion, I was in some like 10 to 15 hours worth of meetings every week. I hated it. I would just say things sometimes like never come back to this meeting. And Columbia was the worst because Columbia, I literally had 15 hours of meetings a week.
Jesus.
So, and this is funny, like, they'll have a topic that we're dealing with one week, right? The next week, we don't talk about that topic. We're on something else. So nothing really gets resolved, and you're just wasting time.
You're not following up on anything, right?
Right. And it's all politics. It's not even about the music. It's about politics, and the whole executive chain is like who kissed whose ass to move up. It wasn't even about talent, And at the time of Columbia, I mean, I had, was it Beyonce's project, What Was Left of Destiny's Child, Solandra's on there, Little Bow Wow, 3 6 Mafia, Nas, Vivian Green, Jermaine Dupri had a couple artists like Fundisha, and I think he had these artists, the Twins, I forgot their names, but I had like 14 groups that I was promoting to DJs at the same time. And the way I would do it is I was like, okay, this week it'll be this group of artists with this group of DJs. Like I actually fine-tuned which group would play the song so I could get multiple play. I mean, I'm always going to be nerdy, and I'm always going to have an engineering approach to everything. So that's how I was able to do it. Like, I'm not going to call all the DJs and talk about the same records. I'm calling different groups of DJs for each record, and that's how I was able to be successful. So when I left Columbia, it failed because they didn't have anybody that could do what I was doing. Like, they actually hired my street team guy when they laid me off. They hired my street team guy from D.C. to do what I was doing. He couldn't do that.
It's crazy. Were you separating the artists and the music to like certain demographics in the country?
Certain different demographics and certain DJs. Like I had my DJs that would play anything, had my DJs that would only play certain things, and I had my DJs that had to wait for other DJs to break it before they played. I had it all mapped out in the science.
It's such a like a meticulous, ingenious like method and approach to doing that, and it's like it's incredible that no one at Columbia noticed what was going on. Because
everything was, because I guess for me, being the nerdy kid that I was, I didn't really want to be in the music. I was really shy and very quiet, so very introverted. So I got into radio, and indeed, almost by accident. Like the Dome nightclub went it was the Washingtonian Magazine Club of the Year.
Right.
And I actually have the article where 1986. So that and what I did with the music director witness got me on the radio, and I was shook because I didn't want to talk on the radio. So they used to record lines,
which is incredible because I feel like you would sound great on radio.
Yeah, but that's what they were saying. They made me cut commercials. So I'm doing this funny story. So like my first 6 months, I'm like just running other DJs doing the liners for the station, all the drops because it's like the top of the hour drop, then there's a 15-minute drop, and then the 30, and then the 45 would talk about what's coming up. So it was like 5 times you had to talk. And I would just run other DJs. So one day, the program director, who was one of my favorite bosses ever, he calls me up on the hotline. In this radio station, when the hotline rings, it doesn't ring. It's a flashing light because you can't have sound. So the lights flash, and I'm thinking I'm in trouble. And he goes, open the mic, I want you to talk. Just read the line of cards. They're right there. I was like, what? So it was a Tuesday. I'll never forget it. And we had Fresh Test Tuesday where we would test new music. He said, go ahead. And he hangs up on me. And he's like, open the mic. So I knew how to do it. Open the mic. And I was like, it's Fresh Test. And I hung up the phone. So he calls back and he's laughing. He's like, do it again and do it right this time. So I started writing out the liners myself and what I would say and how I would say it, and then I got comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
So that broke the fear part, and then I could separate the Charles the quiet introvert to like Charles the guy that's outgoing, because I could just do that. So that worked out pretty well, and the reason how I got the shift was because I was number 1 on Saturday, and my ratings brought the whole station's ratings up, and then I found out that they built the station around my show because I was breaking records, and I didn't know that either. They were adding records from the show based on the reactions that I didn't see. So that's a whole other story. So that's what that helped, and the fact that on the club scene I started getting a lot of club gigs too, and it was just an amazing situation to be in that position without really realizing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So when I got to Tommy Boy, the reason how I got the Tommy Boy job is this guy, Vince Pellegrino. He was like the head of Sin Promotions. Like all the labels hired him to promote the Billboard reporters and DJs. They actually trained me to work at a label. Like they taught me how to, reach out to DJs, how to talk to them, that whole vibe. They gave me the Billboard list of 103 DJs. I had to call these guys every week. I mean, like all the legendary guys are on there. From Tony Humphries to like every city's top guy that was a Billboard boarder, I had to get them to play Tommy Boy records. And how I got the Tommy Boy gig was I told Vince, I was like, Vince, you got to get me out of D.C. I hate this shit. I don't want to be on this. I don't want to be at the station because these promoters are calling me and I'm finding out that they're making like 70, 80,000 and I'm making like $15 an hour on this station. I'm only here for like 6 hours and I have to do club gigs to pay my bills because the station doesn't pay anything.
Right.
So I was just like, I got to get out of here. So he goes, okay, I could put you at Tommy Boy, Atlantic Records, or Columbia. I was like, well, Atlantic and Columbia are major labels. So let me start at Tommy Boy because I know their whole roster. So I met with Tom Silverman, who's very intimidating. He's got that deep Tom Silverman voice. So I met with him and he goes, why should I hire you? I interviewed 150 guys from New York for this job. You're from D.C. You never worked at a label before. Why should I hire you? I said, because I'm going to put together the most comprehensive DJ mix show list of all the guys that do what I do. And I'm going to make it happen because most of the promoters that work at these labels, they're not DJs. So their whole spiel when they talk to you is like, can you play this record? Can I do something for you for playing the record? Can I fly you somewhere? I need this record. I'm going to lose my job. Like, they don't even know the music. I said, I'm a DJ. If you hire me, I can talk to DJs in DJ language and get all of my records played.
But you already had that list.
So he was like, okay, cool. So that was it. And I finished putting the list together because at that time I had maybe like 30 or 40 guys, but I ended up with like 500. And then I ran all the record pools too. Because I was a pool director, so I had the pools in every area, and I knew how to deal with the pool directors as well. As a matter of fact, I dropped about 20 or 30 pools, and they were sending FedEx Express packages to Tom Silverman dissing me. He's like, who is this young guy? Because I was like 23. So they were like, who's this young guy dropping us? And we've been with Tommy Boy since the beginning, blah, blah, blah. So Tom Silverman came to my office with all these FedEx packages, and he dropped them on the desk. He's like, you're doing a good job because people are upset with you.
Why would you drop these record pools though?
They weren't doing anything. They weren't sitting because what I did at OMAP Record Pool, I wanted every record pool to do the same thing. I wanted you to send me your top 25. I needed feedback on all my records. They weren't doing it. They just wanted me to ship records out with no feedback. So I let everybody know, new sheriff in town, I need to know what's happening with my records because I'm only going to focus on the record pools that are supporting me.
So Tommy Boy, like which artists were you pushing? Because I heard you were actually really cool with KG, right?
Yeah.
From Naughty by Nature.
So I had Naughty by Nature, De La Soul, Digital Underground, Queen Latifah, Stetsasonic, but then I also had and House of Pain, but then I also had TKA, Information Society, LFO, and I did the in MTV Party to Go Volume 1 and 2. I helped Howard Kessler put that together too. I did a blend of all the records. As one of the tracks, it was like a blend of all the songs on the album.
Really?
LFO's like the white boy group?
Yeah, all of them.
They were on Tommy Boy?
Yep.
Wow.
They had that low frequency oscillation. That was what LFO stood for.
Oh wow.
And then 808 State too. Cubics was the record. And that's I'm telling you a funny Cubic story. So before I got to Tommy Boy, there was a remix that one of the Def Mix producers, Def Mix was like, Judy Weinstein owned it, but it was Frankie Knuckles was in it and Dave Morales. They were like legends, and I had all their records from when I was in D.C., and I was like, I want to meet everybody in New York. When I get to New York, I'm going to meet everybody. So I go to this club, the Red Zone, and Frankie Knuckles is in the booth and Dave Morales. So I go up to the booth and I knock on the door, and it wasn't a door, it was like a ledge. So I knocked on the ledge and David was spinning. So I said, I'm the new club promotions director at Tommy Boy. I'm from DC and I want to meet you. I'm glad to meet you. He said, Tommy Boy? We don't talk to Tommy Boy. And he turned back to the DJ, and I was like, what the hell? So I'm giving this look like, and then the Baltimore rage is coming out to me. I was like, you got to chill. So Frankie Knuckles noticed that I was upset. I was visibly upset because Dave just straight dissed me. So he came over and he said, look, we got a legal issue with Tommy Boy. We can't talk to you. We really can't because of a legal. I said, what's the legal issue? He said, well, you got to talk to our manager, Judy Weinstein, about that. I was like, well, when can I talk to her? So it's like, well, here's the office. You can come on Monday, whatever, and talk to her. So at Tommy Boy, I didn't even tell Tom and them. I just got on the train, went down to the Def Mix office, which is also, for the record, the #1 record pool in America and probably the world. So I go upstairs. I was like, I want to talk to Judy. So once again, I'm this little 20-something-year-old record exec guy with a big ego, I guess. Well, I don't say it was the ego, it was more confident because I wanted to get to the bottom of this because I don't want to have to fail and move back to D.C. With, at that time, like 30,000 records. Like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
It was a hell to get those records from D.C. to my basement apartment. So I go, and Judy comes out, and she goes, yes, can I help you? I said, well, I understand that you aren't playing Tommy Boy records, and I can see visibly all the boxes of records that we sent to you, and they're not in the record bins. Like, what's up with that? She goes, well, Tom owes us money. I was like, owes you money for what? We did a remix of 808 State, and we want the back end of the money. I was like, well, did he pay you the front end? I said, how much did he pay? He's like, it was $7,500. We want the other $7,500. I was like, but if he rejected it, you get to keep the deposit. I don't understand. It's like, we don't play that. We want the whole thing, and we want all of it. So, I was like, okay, you know what? $7,500, that's not a lot of money, because back in them days, money was flowing. I was like, I'll go talk to them. I'll get you your money, and we'll be good. So she's, looking at me. She's laughing. Frankie's laughing, and David was just like, whatever. So I go back to Tommy Boy, and once again, we had one of those meetings that don't go anywhere, that we discuss different things every week. So in the meeting, I bring up, we need to pay Def Mix the money for the record. So Tom laughs and goes, the record was trash. We didn't like the remix. We're not paying anything. I'm like, well, in order for me to get their support on our records, I need you to pay that. So he goes, well, I'll just take it out of your salary. So everybody in the meeting is like, woo. So I was like, okay, I got to have a comeback because I need to get some laughs too. So I said, okay, you can take it out of my salary, but don't take it every week because I don't make that much. So I'll do it that way. Yeah, that's fine. We're going to do that. So then he got mad because it's like that was like a reverse diss.
Right.
So then after the meeting, I went to Monica. I said, Monica, because Monica Lynch was the president. I said, Monica, we got to take care of Def Mix because they own For the Record. record pool, and I need them, and it's $7,500. It's not a lot of money. So it's like, well, Tom doesn't want to do it, blah blah blah. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So once again, the next week we have a meeting, and they're not even talking about that. Now we're coming with a record, a roller skating jam called Saturdays. I'm like, okay, it's 114 beats per minute. So he asked me, it's more up tempo. Can you get this on Billboard Dance? I go, yes, but I'll need a remix. I got the perfect remixer. He's like, who would you get? I said, David Morales. Now, they didn't make the connection that David Morales was with Judy, but they knew the name because he's the big DJ.
Right.
So
It's a great remix.
Yep. So I said, I'm gonna go speak to their management. I didn't say who it was, and I'll let you know if we can get them.
Wow.
So I go back to my office and I call Judy, and Judy picks up the phone. She goes, "Yes, who is this?" I was like, "It's Charles, the guy that came to see you the other day. How much do you charge for a remix?" And she goes, "I told you we're not dealing with Tommy Boy. We're in a lawsuit." I said, "That's not what I asked you. How much do you charge for a remix?" She said, $15,000. I said, "Good." I said, "I'm going to come see you, and I'm going to bring you a check for $15,000 plus I'm going to give you another $8,000 with interest on the $7,500. Bring you a check for $23,000, and you're going to put all my records in the bin." So she just laughs and hangs the phone up. So I go back to Monica. I said, "Monica, I can get Dave, but Dave is $50,000. But if we pay $23,000, I can get it done." She goes, "Really? Okay." So she goes in Tom's office and she comes back with a check for $23,000.
That's fire.
So I get the check and I go down to Judy's office. I was like, "Here's a check, $23,000. Put my records in the bin and drop the lawsuit."
Oh,
she just
my
starts
God.
laughing and she does it. So then 2 days later, the phone rings and they transfer it to me, and I pick up the phone and I go, "Hello?" He goes, "This is David Morales. I'm doing this remix. I've never done a rap mix before. What do you want?" I said, "Well, it's Roller Skating Jam called Saturdays. Give me like 3 a.m. in the morning in the club, and either use Eric Cupper or Satoshi Tomi on keyboards and just do that." He's like, "Okay, got it." Then he
Great.
sends the record.
Wow.
Record was incredible. I got it to number 2 on the Billboard charts.
Oh, my
And
God.
So they're like, "Charles, this record, you did a great job. It's number 2." Because number 1 is like really paid for. So I got the number 2 without any money. so in the meeting.
Thank you for clarifying that, by the way.
So
I appreciate that.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So in the meeting, they're like giving me like mad props. So how'd you get this done? I said, "Well, Judy was the manager of the Cubics remix that you guys didn't like, so I just fixed everything."
Wow.
And Tom didn't really say anything. He was cool. And then Judy was so excited that she called Dennis Wheeler, who was the head of VP of A&R of Pendulum Records. And I get a call from him. I didn't know who this guy was. I know his back because I know him from the industry. Like, I know he worked with Madonna and Benny Medina, and he was at Warner Brothers, so now he's at this label Pendulum. So he calls up and he goes, "Judy told me to call you. We're looking for a promotion person." And Judy said we should hire you. So I go, "Well, I'm at Tommy Boy." So it's like, "Well, look, we just want you to come down, talk to this guy, Ruben Rodriguez. He's the CEO, and we really want to hire you because you're good." So I was like, I guess Judy told them whatever she told him. So I was like, "Well, I'll call you back. I don't know. I don't think so." I'm like Pendulum Records. What the hell is that? And I found out they had like Henji and Eva Lee. They had some really whack records, and they had some real R&B type records too. So I'm like, I'm gonna leave Tommy Boy for that. I was
Right.
like, nah. So the next day was my review. So I go in Monica's office. She said, "You're really doing well. You're calling. You're making things happen. You're blowing up our records. So we're going to give you a $2,000 raise." So I'm like, okay, I'm making $30,000. They're going to give me $32,000 for basically helping them get out of the situation that the label was before I got here.
Right.
Because, they got caught up in the whole lawsuit with Planet Rock and sampling, Kraftwerk numbers when Kraftwerk was on Warner Brothers. So they were basically bankrupt, and Warner Brothers pretty much took over the company. So I'm like,
Wait, how did you get them out of that?
we're promoting these records. Like, by the time I fit, because every record that I promoted at the label was like gold or platinum. Naughty, Daylight, Digital, all those records was blowing.
Wow.
And I was only been there a year. Everything I promoted blew up.
Did you have a hand in also like approving remix ideas? Like,
Yeah, I did that too.
So I was wondering if you were if you had.
I even did a mix. I did an OPP remix where I
did?
put the ABC in it. It's out. It's in. You can buy it. It's called the Charming Radio Edit. I did that.
But I was wondering if you had a hand in the Pete Rock remix of House of Pain, Jump Around. Also,
yeah,
you did.
I didn't make the call. That was the A&R guy, but I did the promotion on it.
Wow.
Yeah, I got another.
I mean,
Pete,
that's probably.
I got a Pete Rock story when I got the Pendulum because he did a remix with one of the Lords of the Underground records because I signed
Right.
Lords of the Underground.
Oh wow.
And that sample was a sample from the Ballad of Dorothy Parker that I had to clear with Prince. That's a whole other story. Imagine clearing a Prince because no one really clears a Prince sample, but a girl that I used to date knew the bouncer from the Purple Rain movie, the chubby guy with the glasses in the movie, and he knew Prince, so she made that connection. And then Prince actually liked Lords of the Underground.
Really?
So I had a call with his lawyer and our lawyer and my boss. I think Prince was in the room, but that's when he was in the not speaking mode. So he was there. Everything was
The
translated
artist
to the
formerly
lawyer.
known as,
Right.
But when you're at Tommy Boy and you're shopping all of these records and you're promoting all these records, that's probably like the highest like that Tommy Boy was. That was like their glory days. That was like the best time.
But this is the thing. Tommy Boy, Pendulum, MCA, TBT, Columbia.
Yeah.
Every label that I work at, they were at their peak. When I left, each one of them fell off. Tommy Boy fell off, almost went out of business almost. I think when he tried to buy it back from Warner, which he did, but they didn't have the promotion. They didn't deal with the DJs. So then I go to Pendulum. Pendulum, leaving Tommy Boy was really difficult. But the reason why I left is because, like I said, they offered me a $2,000 raise, and Pendulum, brand new label, people I didn't even know, they said, we will triple your salary if you come here. Triple.
$90K a year.
So we ended up at 80.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay,
80K
32,
80K in the 90s
32,
is a lot of
80,
money. No,
32. Yeah, exactly. So I left. I was like, I didn't even have a lawyer. I did a handshake. I was like, you gonna pay me 80 grand to leave? Handshake. And I was out just like that.
How did Tommy Boy feel?
Well, they didn't really know what I was doing until I left. And then they found out the record pools were upset, the DJs were upset.
Oh my God.
The whoever took my place didn't know what they were doing. They couldn't even replace me. So the craziest thing is, so I'm at Pendulum with these records. I'm like, oh man, it's just gonna be tough. Because we were in the process of signing Diggable Planets. We didn't have Lords or Heather. We had Diggables, but that was it. And I get a call from Tom Silverman. He's like, I need your help. We haven't replaced you. I'm like, damn, it's been like 3 or 4 months. You haven't replaced me. He's like, nope. I finally realized basically what you were doing.
Damn.
And, they tried to get me to stay, but I'm like, then they tried to match the offer. It was too late. I'm like, you can't go from $2 grand to we're going to give you 50 more. Like, no. I figured
That's
I'd roll
insane.
with the company that knew my value versus staying with the company that was probably knew my value but was playing me. So anyway, so Tom calls and he's like, I need your help. Can you help me? I was like, sure. What do you need? He's like, we're launching some new songs and we got new singles coming out. We need you to help us set up the promotion. So I was like, well, I'm out here and I can't really do that. He's like,
Right.
well, see if you can get it done. And Tom was like a real, Tom doesn't take no for an answer for anything. That's probably why he's so successful. He's like, Charles, just talk to your boss, get it done, bye. Hangs the phone up. So I go and I tell my boss, Ruben, I was like, well, they want me to do some indie promo. He's like, you work here now? I said, he went through the whole spiel.
Right.
I said, Ruben, we don't have any records for me to promote. These records are terrible. I just want you to know, like, I can't do anything with these records that we have, and Diggables isn't out yet, so.
Wow. You're telling this to the
CEO. So I said, this is what we're going to do. He goes, what? We're going to take Henji and Evil and all these other records. I even forgot the name of some of the other records. I think it was 2 records, Henji and Evil and another group. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put our records in a Tommy Boy wrapper, and I'm going to ship them out from here. And when the DJs open the records and the packages are gone, they're going to have our records, Tommy Boy records, and then they're going to actually listen to it. Because back in those days, in the vinyl days, sometimes DJs wouldn't even listen. I mean, I was like that. Sometimes you wouldn't even listen to records. You
That's
get jumped.
crazy.
But if it's like coming from Tommy Boy,
Right.
you're gonna rip through it.
No. 100%. Like during
that's how I
certain
got
eras,
hinged
yeah.
in Evil Elite to
And
people to even listen to it.
Tommy Boy was an era at that point,
Yep.
and you were like, let's use this as leverage so
Yep.
that these DJs are going to listen to it, knowing that it's Tommy
Right.
Boy.
So he's like, that's a pretty good idea. Whatever, go ahead, do it. So now I'm
Did
getting
you
a check.
come up with that right on the spot?
Yeah. As a quick freestyle, because I wanted that Tommy Boy check too. So Tom paid me, and then Pendulum paid me. Well, I was on salary at Pendulum, but this was like additional funds.
And Tommy Boy must have paid you really well.
Oh yeah, I definitely hit.
What
him.
were the records that they wanted you to push? Do you remember?
I think it was like a new De La, and it was a new maybe Latifah. It was like 3 records that were coming up, three follow-up singles. And I made after I left. It may have been another Naughty record too. But did it worked. And then I think they found someone to actually do the promotion. I think that was when Fat Man Scoop came in. So Scoop was at Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
And then I told them that I would, give him some ideas, some insight. We'd be friends. Like I didn't have any animosity at that point in time. I just didn't want to go back to DC, and I wanted to be successful. So I didn't need Tom mad at me. So to this day, we're still really good friends.
Wow. You don't seem bitter at all about. You don't seem bitter. But were you bitter about any of these situations that happened at Tommy Boy,
No, because-
Columbia, and I'm assuming it happened at Pendulum? And
Not really,
everywhere.
because I was just like I said, I'm a really weird person, and I just felt like nobody really understands me. So things that happen to me is based on people not understanding me. So I just got to keep pushing. Because if they don't know enough to know that what they did to me is bad, then what's the point?
So you almost put it on yourself a little bit.
Well, I don't really put it on myself because I think I'm great. I just think that they don't understand. You know?
Right.
But someone doesn't understand. So waste of time. Like, okay, they doesn't understand me. So I'm just gonna. Everything they know about me is either a guess, an assumption, or just based on what they learned about whatever.
They didn't understand this like meticulous, nerdy mind of yours.
Nope.
That was,
because it wasn't
yeah.
the standard. Everybody
So
in the
calculated.
music industry does everything the same way, even if it doesn't
Right.
work. I mean, I would hear say, "Well, this is the way we do it," but it doesn't make sense.
You're such
it's not
a
logical.
your mind is such a great on the spot solution maker. Like
That's the engineering part.
Yeah.
Because engineering was all problems.
You're
I just
directly-
didn't want to deal
yeah.
with chemicals.
It's interesting, but it's really inspiring and incredible to hear these stories you telling, because it's like all of these things were a spur of the moment solutions at the time, and you were such a great middleman
Yep.
for all of these relationships and business.
And these are stories I've never really told anybody because I
insane.
figured they just wouldn't understand. Or either they wouldn't understand, they wouldn't believe it. But I got all the receipts. I can prove everything that I'm saying.
I mean, just to go back to where you were saying how bad you wanted to be a club DJ, like
Yep.
you did all this so you could be a club DJ, and it's like it has me personally thinking like, damn, I'm really not doing shit. I'm dead ass. I'm sitting here and I'm like, damn, I'm not doing nothing. Yo, I'm like, yo, like, how am I supposed to be this big club DJ? I'm not doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like compared to what you were doing in the 80s.
Yeah.
In 90s, yeah.
That's crazy. That's
insane.
crazy.
Well, I think it's easier now, but I think the issue today is more, it's not even so much with the DJs, it's the fans. They're just so dumbed down that they think that they're the DJ.
That's why there's
you
no
go to a
hip-hop hit.
club and it's like they want you to play what they have on their playlist and their Spotify. Like, you kidding me? Like, 50 records, I know 50,000 records. So I'm one of those weird DJs. I take requests. I love requests because it's entertainment for me.
Right.
Like, who's going to come up with a record that makes sense? Sometimes I get on the mic because I'm taking requests just to see what they're coming up with.
But technology, the labels, the streaming, the DSPs, they have empowered the people to think and believe that, and they have it. Like
they
you
don't
said,
know any better.
They don't know any better.
So what I do when I play, because I can play I can play almost any genre except country. I even do a little light rock when I have to play that. But what I do now, like when I do weddings are I love them because it's a real challenge. It's like a Rubik's Cube. You got a bunch of older people that's never going to dance. You got mostly women that don't even have a man. And then the guys that are with their women, they're not dancing either. So it's like, how can I get... So after playing like the line dances, it's like, okay, I ran out of, I played 4 line dances, got everyone on the floor. What do I play next? So I open it for requests. And sometimes that request is, you're like, oh, they're not going to go for this. But if the floor is empty, I'll just try it just to see what happens. And almost every time is this one record that I never thought would work, the whole room gets up. Now, crazy story. About a month ago, the sorority Delta Sigma Theta, they hired me to do an event at the Venetian in Garfield. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. You know, it's like they got 500 people coming, and it's going to be great. You know, I figure everyone to be paired off with their significant other, and then boom, I can just do my regular R&B, hip-hop, dance, house, whatever, and it would work. So I get there, and I'm looking at, they had a lot of speeches. Before I came on actually DJ, they were honoring different members, the usual speech part of it. And I'm looking out in the room, and I'm like, okay, that's a big-ass dance floor. That floor could hold about 200 or 300 people. They got 500 people here, so I'm looking around. 90% of them were women with nobody to dance with. So I was like, how am I going to pull this off? So naturally, you play a song like Jerusalem, they're going to get up.
Yeah.
And a couple of those type of records, they're going to dance. But then I'm like, I'm taking requests. So this one girl comes up 3 times. Can you play Tamia? Can't Get Enough? I'm like, I got a house mix of that. It's a ballad, but I'm not playing that song. Then the floor was empty. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to, because I got on the mic, I say, whoever requests songs, I'm playing it, and I'm going to tell them who requested it. So it better be good. So I was like, here's this Tamia record. I put the record on. I didn't know that was a line dance song. So the whole room gets on. I'm like, oh, shit. So I'm like, that's why I request, if you're smart with it, it works. But a lot of times the request is just some guy trying to impress his girl that he can get you to play the record.
Right. I think the way you handle it, because I don't know any DJ, because all DJs have so much ego.
Yep.
I don't know any DJ that would go on the mic and do what you did.
Yeah.
And it's almost like admitting defeat a little bit.
It's
But it's actually opening.
Every crowd is different.
Right.
What worked for the crowd last week, it might not work for this crowd. And what you want them to like, they might not even know the records.
Right.
And the thing about it, once again, if I know 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 songs, and each person asking for a request knows what's in their little Spotify playlist, they may know a couple hundred.
Right.
I can take their song that they like and mix it with something that's going to rock the party. So I only take requests. I only play requests when the floor is empty, because then it's like, okay, let me see.
Because there's a disconnect there.
They wanted this record. Let me see if this works. And a lot of times people, because you got to think, it takes a lot of courage to come up to a DJ who you know is going to dish you and ask for a request. That's a lot of courage. So you got to have something really backing you up. And a lot of times the people that request, they took a poll for you. They went around the whole room and came up with the song that they're going to ask you to play. And then they volunteered someone to go up and ask you. And a lot of times you play that one record, it turns the whole party out. Now they think, okay, he's on our level. So now whatever you play, they're going to dance because they figure he has the same musical taste as we do, which I don't, but they don't know because I tricked them.
I think it's incredible, like your
But
approach
that makes
to this.
sense though, right?
It makes sense, but it's also, there is a percentage of you that comes from record promotion.
Yep.
So you find that information invaluable.
Yep,
You know,
it
you
is.
find that interaction. Normally a DJ would find that interaction a distraction and an insult. You find that interaction information.
Yes.
And you become curious. Instead of taking it personally or being disrespected, there's a curiosity in you that's like, let me see.
Just like sometimes when I'm reading a room and I'm playing songs and I'll see certain people move,
Yeah.
I'll call them up to the DJ booth. Hey, lady in the red dress, can you come in for a second? I'm going to talk to you.
That's crazy.
So she comes to the booth and I was like, yo, what do you want me to play? She's like, can you play? I'm like, oh, damn, I didn't even think of that. Put it on, boom, everybody's on the floor.
Wow.
That's ill.
That's such a great, I've
Because
never
the
heard
people
that in
that
my
are
life.
moving are the ones that want to dance, but they're by themselves.
I've never heard that in my life.
That's ill.
It works.
I have a question for you, though.
Yeah.
Since you have such an influence in music and curating music, right? Have you ever, I guess, transferred that influence over to equipment and brand? Because I heard you say another bold statement before, which I never ever heard anybody say in my life, where you prefer Numark over Pioneer.
Right.
I've never heard, like, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I see Numark, anything in the DJ booth, I'm walking the fuck out.
Okay, so Numark now is more of, like, in other words, years ago, it was called Numark Industries. Mm-hmm. But they started picking up companies like Dead and DJ, Akai, Alesis, Sonovox, M Audio, Rain. So they have all these companies in
Staten too, right?
Stanton. They just bought Stanton because the owner of Numark, I think he married Mrs. Stanton's daughter, and he worked for Stanton. So she lost the company. The dad sold the company. He bought it back, just to put it back in the family.
Yeah.
So the genius of Jack O'Donnell, who's the owner, is, he thinks he thinks logically. Like, he buys a company, now you own all the patents of that company, and you keep some of the staff or get rid of them. So when you have like 300 or 400 patents, now you can build anything. But the failure, not so much a failure, but End Music Brands, they had to change the name from Numark Industries to End Music Brands because they had so many brands. They couldn't call it Numark. So Numark became, after the NS7 with the motorized turntable platter, that of course Pioneer copied. After that, it was like, okay, we have Denon DJ now, and we have, let's go ahead and do something with Stanton. It's like, okay, so now we're going to make Numark the beginning DJ brand. We're going to make Rain the battle DJ brand, and we're going to make Denon DJ the high-end, high-profile brand. But it's like all the same patents, and everything's interchangeable. And when because Numark had their first sampling mixer. They had that before anybody. And then because
before Gemini, even?
Well, yeah, or maybe around the same time.
Okay,
because technology's flowing. But I think the Numark sampler was better. And I think
better than Gemini.
Yeah, because it had more time. It had more seconds or something.
Oh, really?
I think so.
I think Gemini. Yeah, because I had a Gemini sampler, and I think there was like a 12-second bank, which is long. But I don't know how long they paused. I don't know how long the Numark was.
Well, the first Numark was, I think, a little less, and then by the time they came out with I think it was the 1775, and then they would like the 1975, then the 2175. It just kept getting more advanced.
Wow.
But when you look at the first company to come out with the impact pads, those are Kai pads. So, that they had that technology first. I think, and I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost 100% sure that they licensed. You have to, whoever owns the patent, you got to get the license.
So you're saying that Pioneer's pads are
that technology comes from
Numark,
Akai.
From Akai, which is Numark.
That's why he changed the name to M Music Brands, because it gets confusing.
Right.
But Numark now is basically, that's like the beginning DJ.
Entry level stuff.
Entry level, right.
Yeah.
But I think as far as the marketing is concerned, I think that's kind of like what Pioneer has, because Pioneer would spend almost 40% of their marketing, their profit on marketing. And music doesn't do that. They figure we got a great product, word of mouth, people get on it, whatever. So from 1995 on and off till now, I've been consulting them and working as an artist relations person. Like if they wanted to get to a certain DJ or they wanted to get DJs involved, I would set up meetings with the DJs. Even when the EDM thing kind of blew up, I know Patrick Moxie, so I set up a meeting for Numark to meet with Patrick Moxie so that we could actually build equipment for EDM DJs.
So the Laid Back Luke and Denon thing was kind of your idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
And,
because if you notice, Laid Back Luke has been pushing Denon crazy.
Yeah, but the guy that's part of it, I started a lot of these relationships, and they finalized. Like even with Jazzy Jeff, like I would reach out or tell them who to go out with, and I met Laid Back Luke at Midem in France.
Wow,
real cool guy. But their marketing team reached out to him, and like they cut the deals. I would just just advise them. We need to get this guy, get that guy, whatever. And like I said, when I met with Patrick Moxie, I set up a meeting for the CEO to talk to Patrick and, sort of form some sort of relationship. I don't know how that went because the guy that was the head of marketing at the time, don't want me calling shots. It's funny, in the meeting that we had, he didn't even want me to speak. But Patrick only knows me, he doesn't know them. So I said, okay, I'll sit back, I'll let the two CEOs speak. And Patrick was getting frustrated because he's like, you know what, Charles, you tell me, what is this meeting for and why are we here? So I broke it down. He's like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to get with the marketing team at End Music and we're going to figure out something. And I think after the meeting, Jack was really upset because he was like unprepared for that. Mm-hmm. And he's like really, precise and, everything has to make sense. So I think that marketing guy didn't last too long over there. So I think he was like ousted quick because you can't have the CEO looking crazy in a meeting like that.
Did you get Fingers his job at In Music as well?
No,
Worked
he
with them
was
for a little bit.
I recommended him, but the guy that was actually managing the marketing for Numark reached out to him because all these guys would come to Atlantic City for the DJ Expo.
Right.
And I would go every year. I've gone almost. I think I'm gonna go this year again, but I've gone to almost 30 of those. Out of the 34th they had, I think I probably did 30 of them.
Wow.
And a lot of times, that was part of my job to just do outreach and like artist relations. But the frustrating thing for me, like I said, is, Pioneer would come out with something that we already had. Like now, I think one of the latest controllers has outside of the motorized, because we had that first too, is they have like the digital readout, and the NS7 had that. No, the NS7 too had. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It came
and
with
the NS6 too. Yeah. So, but hey, I'm not hating on their ability to do their marketing. Plus, Pioneer.
So you think Pioneer is mostly marketing?
Yeah, it is.
I see.
They were sold a bunch of times.
a good
You got to figure, In Music Brands is still the same guy owns it. Pioneer's been sold like 3 or 4 different times.
See, my perspective from being in clubs and DJing for over 20 years is that Pioneer has a durability to the name.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay.
Yeah.
Winter Music Conference, I think it was like 96 maybe. I was there, and the relationships that Pioneer would build, like when CDs became the thing, they did a deal with promo only, and they had promo only as the CD with multiple tracks, like little mini albums for DJs that had all the songs on it. And Pioneer helped back that. And in every convention, from the international conventions like MEDEM and ADE, Amsterdam Dance Event, that's really big. And no matter whether it's hip hop, any place where there were DJs, Pioneer was there. Whereas In Music wasn't. And another thing that Pioneer did was genius is they go to all the there's an actual festival and conference called the Installers, a Club Installer Conference, and I think it happens somewhere in Europe, either Germany or the UK. They sponsor that too. So anybody's building a club with club installations, they're gonna have Pioneer gear because they went to that meeting and they met the guy that installs in the clubs.
But there's also when I've I would say there was an open market for club gear in the late 2000s to early 2010s. There was a certain window for hip hop, especially, or open format, if you want to call it. There was an open market for that, and Rain was in the lead.
Right.
And Rain dropped the ball. They didn't create club-friendly mixers or DJ equipment for clubs that had the durability that Pioneer had.
Right. Well, I think they went through a phase where you start running out of money, and then, like I said, In Music bought them.
Yeah.
And fixed them. So that's the process. Like,
well, that's always been the thing. I think I actually like Numark and Denon, but I would probably never, if I owned a nightclub, I would never buy it because I don't think it has the durability that Pioneer does.
Because Pioneer goes to those installations and they tell the installers, we need this spec on this gear so that it would last in this club. It has to be able to avoid like spills from beer and smoke and dust and all of that. But like I said, In Music doesn't go to those installation events and meet the guys that install in the clubs. That's from my observation.
So that's the disconnect.
Yeah, but as far as the technology is concerned,
so out of the In Music brands,
tech comes from In Music brands.
Right. I mean, the thing
you
is,
can see it. Motorized platters. And we had motorized platters from all the way back to the NS7-1.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll never forget this because I was there. I was at NAMM when the Pioneer people were taking pictures of the demo of the NS7. They were excited. As a matter of fact, in one of our meetings, they were showing video of them going,
that's funny.
This is great. Yep. And then boom, they come with it and they know how to market it and they get it done.
But I feel like I don't feel like Pioneer needs to innovate. I just think they need to perfect.
Yeah,
I feel like, you know what I mean?
I feel like they're the Apple of DJ equipment. Like you know how
they're the standard.
Everybody in Samsung was like, oh well, my Samsung could do this first, and it's like, all right, but Apple did it 3 years later, but they did it right. You know what I mean? It's
I
more stable.
almost see like Pioneer, like Instagram. Instagram is a social media app that literally
Right.
steals and buys the intellectual property and
Yeah,
functions of
yeah.
other companies, right?
Right.
Right.
But in the end, they're just building like this perfect social media platform that has multiple aspects of it. But I'm curious to see if in music were to create or develop one of their brands to be the nightclub, durable, like club friendly
Industry standard.
equipment, like become the new tech for like nightclubs. Which one would it be?
Well, the Denon. Remember Denon?
Did I say that really like
Yeah,
crazy?
that's great.
No, I
Remember
thought it sounded horrible.
Denon came out with a standalone that was just like the Pioneer 3000,
Yeah.
but didn't have the marketing behind it.
Right.
It was brilliant. It could do, but
So you're saying it's Denon?
yeah, so it's Denon. It's definitely Denon. So when Pioneer came out with the 2000, they used to build the 3000. I think they copied the Denon standalone unit.
Yeah.
And made it better.
I agree with that.
That's what they do. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's
Yeah.
just like that's what my guys that in music has to understand. It's like you gotta do the marketing.
Yeah, because I think people want, when I see a Denon, I'm like, that's great for home use, or that's great for
Well, they
like
they
for
actually
an
worked
event.
out the specs, but when people don't know, and if you don't go to like the DJ Expo and actually see the demos, or you don't even care about seeing it, then because it's not top of mind.
Right.
Pioneer is always going to be top of mind. Like they're everywhere.
I remember I went to the DJ Expo when the Rain 12 came out, and there was like this big ass like anticipation behind it, and like in music was just so like we don't care that the shit didn't even work at the expo. It was in a glass case.
Yep, I was there.
Yeah, it was in a glass case. It turned on, like I think Fingers like turned them on, and then nobody was able to play on them. Pause.
Yep, I was there.
It was the Rain 12 and the Rain.
I think that's when
70.
I met you because I was there.
Yeah, I might have met you through Latin Prince.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was there with DJ City.
They were DJ. Yeah,
Yeah.
DJ City. Yeah,
Yeah,
They
I
did
was
the reviews. Yep.
Yeah, and I dropped a set. I DJ'd at the Rock and Soul booth and at the Rain booth as well. And I remember
Definitely, man.
I was on the
When I
Rain.
just saw you when I came in, I was like, where do I know him from?
I think that's where we met. Yeah. I was on the
DJ
Rain
City.
62.
At DJ City. Yeah.
I was on the Rain 62 and
Finally reunited.
Yeah.
finally. But yeah, that shit wasn't even working though.
Yep.
And like in music, everybody was like, "Yo, so disappointed." Like, I was like, "Yo, I cannot wait to hear what Mojax has to say about this. I cannot wait."
Are you going to get a phone call when this comes out
I don't
in
care.
music?
I don't care.
I mean, I love those guys. Like, I was still like, if they were like, Charles, we need you to come back, I was like, okay, cool. I don't, like I said, I don't hold that animosity or because I'm always trying to develop. I'm always like reprogramming myself.
When did you leave the record labels? Because I'm like, you have such a brilliant
Well,
mind.
the last label,
know?
like after Columbia, I started my own. Like I took Sir Charles Independent Productions and formed Skip Records, and then I signed Chanel. They had the song "I Fell in Love with the DJ," and I got a deal. That's another story. I got a deal with Virgin in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So Jason Flom, the CEO of Virgin, signed Chanel and flew her over, her and her manager over to New York, and we did this deal. And it would have been incredible, but EMI got sold. Remember the EMI got sold? So it was like labeled Chop Shop.
Oh my God! Wait, it's just that was a dancehall record.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering right now. Fell in love with
DJ,
Sham.
Yeah, with Sham. Yeah, I put Sham on it. Yep.
Wow.
That record went global.
Wow.
Yeah, it was huge.
That record took me and her around the world.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like 2007.
Yep, 2007. And then the label got sold, so we froze in 2009. And I'm like, okay, the money that I was supposed to get would replace all the money that I spent. Now I'm broke. I have nothing. So I got to figure this out. But because I signed her to my production company, I still had control over the masters.
Nice.
So usually when you sign, when an artist signs, like say you're the manager and your artist signs to the label and they
Right.
freeze it. So all the artists were frozen. But I was like, okay, let me think about this. She's an Asian artist. What can I do to create a buzz?
I didn't even know she was Asian.
Yeah, she was originally from Malaysia. So her mom was Indian Malaysian. Her father was Chinese.
I didn't know.
She
That.
looks
This whole time I
incredible.
thought she was like Jamaican.
That's
from
crazy.
The West, like
Well,
West
in
Indian.
Australia, that's the thing. They like to do all the dancehall stuff.
Yeah.
So, so I was like, when I signed to my production company, I heard a bunch of demos that she did. I thought they were brilliant, but I said, we need something where if I'm going to get a deal, I need to come up with a record that my DJs will just play. So I sampled R. Kelly's Reggae Bump Bump, did a loop and a track, and I sent it to her. Now, this is a funny thing. Artists in Australia, they don't have the same type of production support that we have like in America, where everybody's a producer and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So she actually, I think the guy that she was dating before, this guy B-Side, showed her a couple of production techniques, and then she went to school and learned how to produce. And she thought that all artists does what she does, but she actually could. She knew how to use Pro Tools. So I sent her a loop. This girl writes a whole song, stacks the vocals, mixes it, and sends it back to me. Goes, "What do you think?" That blew my mind. I was like,
Wait, what song was this?
this was all her songs, all her demos. She did them from the instrumental track. She knew how to do production. So I didn't believe it. I was like, you know what? I'm talking to this girl. She's sending me music. It's no way. She's like 22, 23 years old. I know she's not doing this stuff. So I told my wife, I'm going to sign her to my production company. I found her on MySpace. After I left Columbia, I was just distraught. So I was like, all these labels that I work for, they had their peak when I'm there and they go out of business. Is it me or is it the label? Is it a combination? I said, you know what? I'm going to go on MySpace, find the artist I think is dope, and I'm going to sign it to my production company.
Wow.
So my wife thought I was crazy. So I got on MySpace and I see this pretty Asian girl with like braids. I'm listening to her music. I'm like, her voice is dope. It's like she can really sing. So that's when we, developed a relationship, and I followed her on MySpace. And then her manager, a girl named Shorty, she hit me back and said that, she let us talk. So we did like a conference, and I was like, I want to sign to my production company. You guys in Australia, maybe I'll try to come out there and see you. So I tell my wife, I'm going to take a leap of faith. I got 3,000 saved. I'm going to get a ticket. I'm going to fly to Australia, and I'm going to meet this girl because I can't believe she's doing all of this stuff. So I go to Australia. I meet with her. They pick me up at the airport. And that night we went into the studio, and she's playing a track. And I'm like, okay. No, I told her to sing a cappella. That's what it was. So one of the nights, she was working on a song, and she was in the studio. So I'm seeing her sing a cappella, and she goes, "Want to hear what I just did?" I'm like, "Yeah, you were singing a cappella." She said, "No, I was singing to a track." So she plays the track back, and I have all this on videotape of her making a song in the studio. She was like a National Geographic project for me because I had my Sony camcorder. And I videotaped her hanging out with her mom, hanging up clothes, cooking. And we went to the supermarket. It was like a whole video of everything because I was going to take this back. I wanted to edit it and show it to whoever I was meeting with at the label so you can see this is real talent. So when she played it back and her vocals was on, I was like, damn, this girl knows she really knows Pro Tools. Now, she had the Pro Tools inbox and an old busted computer. It was like a Dell computer. She had the windows open in her bedroom and a little pop screen, and she was doing all this stuff in her bedroom. I saw her do it. I was like, this is incredible. How do you learn to mix records and mix them? She can stack her vocals and mix them down. Like, there are producers that can't even do that. So, long story short, I come back. I'm really excited, and I think it was like another couple of months, and that's when I came with the idea for the I Fell In With the DJ thing, and she did that. That blew my mind. So I was like, now I got to get a meeting. So I used to be a DJ, and in 2005 I was a DJ for the coffee shop on 14th Street.
Yeah. It's closed now.
I made their Saturday nights. Because guess who hired me? Jelly Bean's daughter
I was just about to
saw
say.
me on Music Choice, because I was on Music Choice.
Yeah.
She saw me on television, DJing on Music Choice, digital cable, and she told her mother, who actually owned the coffee shop, Jelly Bean's wife owned the coffee shop.
Wow.
And she's like, you need to get this DJ to play at the coffee shop. So Jelly Bean calls me to come down to meet his wife, and they hired me to play on Saturdays at the coffee shop.
Crazy.
So one of the guys working there was a guy I knew from Pendulum, a guy named Steve Tramposh. He had just got the job working with Jason Flom. And I told him I had some music that I wanted to play for him. I'm going to send it to him. Maybe you can help me get this deal. He plays the track with Jason Flom. Jason Flom wants to meet with me. Now, it's December, the end of the physical year, December 12th. I get a meeting. He set up a meeting for me to meet with them. It's a snowstorm. And Steve's in the office like, yeah, I know it's snowing, but can you come and meet with Jason because he's here and he's about to go out of town. So I'm like, okay. So I go meet with Jason. I'm figuring I'm going to have this whole plan, this whole spiel. I'm going to talk to him, get this record going and see what happens. And maybe if he doesn't like it, I can tell other labels that he liked it and maybe they could listen. So I get there. I'm talking to Steve. I'm waiting for Jason to come in. Jason walks in the room and he goes, hi, Charles. This is Jason Flom, CEO of Virgin Records. How can we get your artists? I'm saying to myself, I didn't even get a chance to like sell them. I was like, well, I want you to pick up my production company because she's already signed to me. So pick up the production company's one night deal. He said, done. Okay, cool. Monday was a day for him to fly all of them in. And I'm at the label and his assistant is like, this guy is bugging. It's going to cost $10,000 to fly them in. And then we got to put them up in a hotel.
Right.
So Jason was like, just get it done because I want this artist. So they fly them in. And it's the first time that I'm meeting the manager. And I was excited to see Chanel. So we sit down, and I figured, they met him. We'll see what happens. So Jason goes, actually, just before they flew him in, that was the Tuesday. Jason puts me in another room, and he goes, those stories you hear where they won't let you leave the office? Mm-hmm. So I'm figuring, okay, I'll meet with him. We'll see what happens. So he goes, I want the artist. Let me know. And I told him I wanted the production deal thing. He's like, cool, done. He's like, well, let's do it right now. Because I'm going out of town and I won't be back till Friday. And this is Tuesday. I want this deal done by Friday. So I'm like, well, I got to call my lawyer. He's like, where's your lawyer? We'll send a car and get it right now. So I said, no, give me a couple of days. I need to talk to her. I need to sit down, figure out what's going on. So he let me leave. And I said to myself, I'm not even shopping this anymore. If the CEO wants this artist, I'm going straight. I'll make it happen there. So I went and I told my lawyer about the deal. And on that Monday, when they flew the artist in, we did the whole deal. And it was a great deal. It was my lawyer, Tia Guilford, man. She ripped up their business affairs office, and she got us 3 times what we were going to get.
Wow.
Because the deal was originally back when we talking 2007, 6, 7. The original deal that we were going to get that they offered was like $400,000. She got $1.2 million.
Wow.
But what happens at these labels, they control the budget. So the I Fell in Love with the DJ video was like they wanted a movie producer from Universal Studios who never really did videos to do it on some favor, friendship thing, whatever the situation was. But I know that video was like $250,000. That's coming from that budget. And then they wanted to do a 30 city, 40 radio station run across the country. So because, it was my production company, they don't usually pay for managers for stuff like that because I was like kind of manager and she was a production company. So because it was a production deal, they were able to send me out. So to pay for the whole trip. So we went to all these stations. That budget was like $600,000. So we took $600,000 plus $250,000.
Yeah.
That was crazy. So I'm like, oh man, this is nuts. And then there was rumors that the company was going to be bought. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be even crazier. So then they finalized that the company is going to be bought. They didn't know whether Jason was still going to be there because EMI was being bought by some investment firm for the UK. And I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. So it's like another one of those super merger things. So everything was frozen right there. We had the single. We finally had the first single. I told you that the original first single was going to be that Pops Up song, the one that Janet recorded. But that got shut down. So we're going to come with I Fell in Love with the DJ first. And I had to clear every single Chanel on the planet Earth. And, because I had to clear her name. So that took a while, too. Wow. That took about 6 months. So anyway, long story short, the company's being sold. Everything's frozen. So I gotta come up with a power move. So I'm like, okay, she's an Asian artist. EMI is a worldwide company. We've got a worldwide deal. What company can I get to back this that's part of EMI? So EMI Japan. So the number one song from America from EMI was Mims. This is Why I'm Hot.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got Chanel. I said, look, this is what we're going to do. I want you to do an answer record because that worked for Beyonce. So I want you to do an answer record to This Is Why I'm Hot. I want you to sing while you're hot. We're going to record it. I have the instrumental here. Send it to you. Just, actually, they did a deal where she was staying in Edgewater. So I got that. My lawyer was amazing. We got an apartment. She got a salary. It was great. So anyway, so she's in her little apartment in Edgewater. I'm like, look, here's a single. I want you to write an answer. Listen to the Mem song, and you sing while you're hot to the same beat.
Right.
So I sent it to one of Marley Marl's DJs. It's the big mixtape queen of Japan. What is her name? I can't think of it anyway. But she's like one of Marley's girls, one from his little crew. And she actually had a deal through Universal Records over there to release her mixtapes. That's how big she was. She was major.
So that shit just blew up in Japan?
Yes. So I leaked it to her. She went nuts over it because, they had a little picture of her and they went crazy. So while the negotiations were going through for the merger or whatever, or the buyout, I get a call from the A&R department. And it's like, Charles, do you know anything about this Chanel record being leaked in Japan? I was like, I don't know. I heard this. I know we did a record. I didn't know it leaked. So forget all that. You're not in trouble. The president of EMI Japan wants to talk to you. So his A&R guy calls me. He's like, Chanel, she's great. We want to put the album out. I'm like, okay. So you want to put out her albums because they froze all the releases for America.
Sure, yeah.
So they put the album that was supposed to come out here out in EMI Japan. That shit went gold.
Wow.
In 2 weeks.
Wow.
Now, gold in Japan is like 150,000 units. It's not 500,000. But our records sell for $9.99. Their records sell for like 32. So 150 records at 32 versus 100,000 at 10. So I was like, bet. So the record blows up. Then we get to go there.
What ended up happening? Because we never heard from her after.
Well, after the album, after the success in Japan and after EMI kind of went out, in I call it label chop shop. I think Columbia got the publishing and Universal got the masters. So that's how it is now. And then before, once you do an album, everything's happening. In 2009, and we're about to do a new album for Japan directly in 2010, but the royalties hadn't kicked in. So I'm broke. She's broke. She's like, you know what, Charles? I want to move to LA, with my boyfriend, and I just want us to take some space. I want to get out of my deal and see what I can do. I'm like, you want to leave me? Okay, fine. That's what you want to do. Because when an artist wants to leave, they want to leave. It's like no, and I'm not the type of person. Well, I'm gonna lock you in. I said, well, get a lawyer because she was using my lawyer. Get a lawyer and have your lawyer talk to my lawyer, and we'll just work it out because I want you to be happy.
Right.
And I want to be happy. Plus, I need to get back to my wife because I've been running around with you for 5 years. So that's how it works. She moved to LA and we split.
So you had nothing to do with this. I have one more record from her in my Serato that's called Feel Good.
That was the first album that I did with Japan. That was my idea, my concept. And she wrote the lyrics. Just like I fell in love with the DJ. I wanted a DJ record. So she wrote a DJ record. And the Feel Good.
I didn't get that till 2010.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right.
With the album that we did with America, we ran that from 2008 up to 2010, and then I had to get out of the U.S. deal. So how I got out of the U.S. deal was the money made from the album that we released in Japan cleared the $1.2 million that we owed them. So I was able to talk to Business Affairs and get out of the deals, and then we did another deal and signed her directly EMI Japan. That was in 2010. So the royalties for that and the first, we didn't have any royalties on the first album except for the one single.
This is a 3 to 5 year process.
Yes. So the royalties from the album we did in 2010 didn't hit till like 2012.
Okay.
And and then I was straight. Like she had money.
While you're describing this, I thought it was like a 1.5 to 2 year process, but
it is
way longer.
Yeah, because it's longer because you got to make the record. That takes forever, and then they have to set it up, and then you have to sing about singing. But the first single was "Feel Good," and I actually got a video shot, and I was going to release the video here, but that was right when she said, she couldn't wait anymore. She just was, bored, and people get in the artist's ear and they tell her, "Oh, leave Charles. I know, I could get you a deal with so and so." So and I wanted to get back to family life. I wanted to get back to wifey because I felt like I was really neglecting her. Because it was always, we went around the world like multiple times. I think I went to Japan alone like 25 times.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot.
And I'm talking about Indonesia, because another thing I was able to come together, because she's from Malaysia, I cold called EMI Malaysia and said, I have a Malaysian artist signed to a U.S. deal. We want to come to Malaysia and tour. And it's like, well, we mainly just handle jazz and stuff. I was like, look, I want to speak to the president because you don't really get it. Because Malaysian artists don't get signed to the U.S.
Right.
with a record. Like, you're nuts. So they heard that I wanted to do this, and they made it happen. We ended up going to Malaysia, her hometown. Then we went to Indonesia. We were everywhere.
This is so this is like the last straw for you in the music business, pretty much.
Yeah.
You did all this work for 5 years. The artist wants to leave. You were just like, I'm done.
Well,
right?
it's crazy. Artists always like to leave the people that they met, so the new people that they meet, they can say, well, you didn't do anything for me. I did everything. And the people that originally started them can have the bragging rights. So other managers and other situations she was in after we left, the last manager that she had, like, cut me out of social media, changed her Wikipedia. Even to this day, like 2 weeks ago, my wife showed me this interview that she did, and she completely edited me out of her whole career. Basically, and they said, well, how did you get started in the music business? So she literally goes, well, I was doing music in Australia, and the CEO of Virgin Records heard my song and signed me. That was her story. And the thing about it that these artists don't understand is when you're being interviewed, I think it was like a People magazine, or anybody that's interviewing you, they already did the research on you. So if you flat out lying, then they're like, everyone pretty much knows me from the industry. So it's like, well, damn, she's really dissing Charles. So I'm like, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to let this rock because she's killing herself. And that's how she faded out. She was with different people. They took advantage of her. She ended up getting married, and she has a kid. And I think EMI Japan is still dealing with her. So that was my original deal. She owed me, I think, she owed me 8 albums. I cut it down to 4. So I had 4 albums that she did in Japan that I was a part of. And then the 5th, 6th, 7th, all the other. She's done about probably 10 albums with them.
Wow.
And, I wish her well. I'm not mad at her because she just, like I said, once again, people don't understand me. They don't get me. I can't get mad because, I think I'm special. And not everybody's going to be able to understand where I'm coming from. And I don't do what everybody else does. I do what I do. And whatever happens, I make an adjustment because you can't get mad at people that don't understand you.
It's just so weird, like the way the record industry is put together.
Yeah.
It's like someone like you, I would expect to be at least a VP or someone in charge, if not running a label.
That's why when I left as a senior director, I became my own president. President of Skip Records with a deal. And then my label team with Chanel was just like me, my lawyer, and then one of my interns.
I have a question. Did you have anything to do with Jeanne or anything?
Well, when I was at
because I know you had a relationship with KG. And
yeah, that's from Naughty by Nature. So
yeah.
when I got to BLS and I was running Thunderstorms, and I had I've been on a Tommy Boy for a minute. KG called me and said he was doing a Jeanne record, and he sent me the album. And the song on the album called The Vibe?
Yeah.
That's when my program director, Quincy McCoy, he changed the vibe. The station, they called it The Vibe 107.5, remember that? So we used The Vibe as a theme song, and I helped break Jeanne on BLS and the Thunderstorms. We broke a lot of records on the Thunderstorms, but that was one.
When they came to you to start the Thunderstorm radio show, the mix show, and they were taking your resume. They were just like, oh, look at his resume from
PGC and DC.
PGC and DC, and just do what you did. And you were able to just handpick all the mixers that would be
I put
part
a team
of the mix show.
Well, before I got there, they had already had a Thunderstorm program in Texas where my boss is from.
And the
He wanted to start
Thunderstorm
in
is
New
not
York.
the quiet storm, right?
No, the Thunderstorm is like the concept. The concept was a thunderstorm can happen at any minute. So
was the opposite.
we had spontaneous mixes happening at any hour of the time. Like they would just schedule. Okay, we're gonna have one at 8. We're gonna have one at 7. We're gonna have one at 5.
Right.
And it was different times. It wasn't a real schedule. But I also had my own show because part of my deal to come into BLS is I had to have my own show. So I had Saturday from noon to 2. every Saturday with Clay Berry.
Just like the traffic, yeah.
Yeah, so we
it's like
killed
prime
it.
time.
Yeah, we killed it. We had a great time.
Wow.
And then I was part of Thunderstorm too, so I had the very first morning mix before Ed and Dre. I mixed at 8 to 9 every morning on BLS. You know,
Really?
they would
In
never
New
do
York?
that. Yeah.
No way.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I was on for 8 to 9. Then they brought up Michelle Wright from DC, and we did the morning show together. She was the host, and I DJ'd 8 to 9 every morning.
That's crazy. Yeah, because when you said the Thunderstorm, I was thinking the Quiet Storm.
Yeah.
Which
Quiet Storm is a DC thing. And the Quiet Storm,
Wait, it's a DC thing?
It was started in DC. HUR had the first Quiet Storm.
WBLS had the Quiet Storm first.
Not first.
No?
That was Melvin Lindsay and Angela Striblin at Howard University.
The more you know.
And they played the record, was it the Smokey Robinson theme song? But yeah, the Quiet Storm has been down there for...
And then what, WBLS took it?
Well, I think a lot of the urban stations,
Yeah, they took that.
it became like a format. But
Yeah.
I think from what I know, I mean, I could be wrong, but I never heard anybody say that it wasn't. But I know in D.C. at HUR, that Quiet Storm was legendary. And that was back in like the 70s into the 80s, you know. And I know, like, I'm still friends with Angela Striblin to this day. She still does voiceovers. Her voice is the most incredible voice of a woman ever on radio. So she actually did a couple drops on my Sirius XM show for me. But
I think it's incredible. Like, I feel like DC never really gets the credit or the kudos or the acknowledgement.
And
right?
DC is such a melting pot because when you have schools like Howard University, everybody's talking about Howard University, historically black, college. A lot of people went there. It was a go-to spot. So people from all around the country went to DC to go to Howard, and then they stayed there. So it's like a melting pot. And then for music, once you get DC, you can get, it's like it's the middle ground because it's like the middle part of the East Coast. So once you get DC promotionally, you're going to get Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and then it's going to spread from DC to Philly to New York, to Connecticut to Boston. That it goes like that. So it's a middle ground, and it's a good college town. And then like a lot of the major black colleges are from DC on down to like the South to North Carolina, and so you get that market. It's a good market to break music. Yeah, and the melting pot in DC is amazing because people are from all over. Because not only do you have the black colleges, you have American University down there too. Yeah. And schools like that where
everyone's working for the government, and you have like it's such an international.
It is
melting pot.
So anything that breaks there, like when PGC's format worked in DC and crushed the urban stations and the pop station, all the stations, because it went number one. It went from number 22 to number one in 2.5 years. That's unheard of, and it remained number one for years after that. And then all the other stations changed their format to more of a PGC format. And they started playing hip hop, and Steph Lover and all of them. Like you had a whole vibe. Tigger came from PGC. Like,
oh wow,
it was like a whole culture after that. And then when I was there, I wanted go-go music to be on the radio. So I helped DJ Cool get his show.
Wow.
So we did this thing called Club 95. So he was a Club 95 DJ, and that led to Flex, the other DC Flex, getting a gig. He did the water dance, that record. So that was my thing.
That's one of my favorites.
Right. So I wanted to put DC, get these guys on the radio because they weren't being played in their own town. That was crazy to me. Then once again, it wasn't logical. How could you not have DJ Cool not on the radio? It didn't make sense. So I ended up on the radio.
Yeah, I think your story is just so unique.
It's crazy.
And I think it's no surprise that you come from a city like DC and the DMV. We just recently had a few DJs on, DJ Money, and we were just talking about how DC is just never given the props, or they're not really acknowledged for the influence that they have in nightlife, in music, and everything.
That's true.
Yeah, but
I mean, Wale had a run.
Wale
had a run.
Yep. he had like DJ CeeLo, who was a major factor. Like he's like, I'm early legendary, but CeeLo is like the hip hop legend of DC, and him and Cool. That's DC. And there was other DJs like Gary L. Drew was a major factor in the whole culture and in the sound. But I think what happened, what I was disappointed coming from Baltimore originally with DC was that when hip hop started blowing up in New York, I felt like the DC artists kind of shifted. It's like, oh, we're going to do that sound because it's popular. And the big band sound of like DC Go-Go was kind of lost.
Right.
And it's like they moved more towards the hip hop sound. And it just, I still like that old Rare Essence, EU, Trouble Funk vibe. And it's like, I would like to see a new group of producers and DJs like take those bongos and that sound and those drums and recreate it.
It's still more relevant than ever, right? It's like it's very interesting because when you go to these regional sounds like New Orleans,
Yep, Exotica
even
music.
Miami,
Yep.
even
Miami bass.
LA G Funk,
Yep, G-Funk, yep.
you know, New York DC, you know, they age really well.
Yep.
And they stay relevant. So even when even now we're spinning all the 2000s and all this throwback music is still is hitting harder than ever now than the new music.
Because the label stopped doing artist development. They wanted to create like a assembly line machine. And in other words, most of the artists today are derivatives of other artists that are popular because it's easier to do that. Like, for example, Beyonce had Destiny's Child in 1996. By 2006, she was like iconic. But that's 10 years of money spent in marketing and promotion. Then a lot of the rights they don't have because when they signed originally, they didn't have like the digital rights and certain things. So it gave Beyonce a lot of power. And at the same time, they didn't really, everything she tried to do, they like, oh, we can't do that. Even from when I was there, like they didn't like Crazy in Love. They didn't like the album, Drunken in Love, that album. They thought it was too ratchet. Wasn't the Columbia Beyonce sound.
Right.
So they created the illusion that she leaked the album herself. Remember that? But really, she doesn't have an iTunes account. So they let her do that so it would fail. And it didn't fail. It blew up.
Right.
So that gave her more leverage. Now her company, like Parkwood, she can do whatever she wants to do. That's her label. She's probably the most powerful female executive in the record business because she has her own label, she has her own management company, and she's down with Jay-Z, who has, Rock Nation. So that's a powerhouse.
I love that Matthew Knowles, like even after Columbia fired you, he just kept coming to you and be like, keep pushing these records.
He didn't have a choice because, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you another Matthew story. So Beyonce's album is now having success. It's going gold.
Dangerously in Love.
Dangerously in Love. So he calls me and goes, Charles, man, we're gold. We're going to start working on a new album. So I say, well, there's still songs left on this album. I mean, you still have Naughty Girl, Baby Boy. Those are two songs that could be singles, and I'm working them, and I'm getting a good buzz on them. He goes, no. We're going to move on. We're going to start a new record. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
This is what you need to do. I said, get Destiny's Child back together. And he was like, but they broke up. I'm like, get them back together because 50 Cent has G-Unit. So G-Unit is rocking, but his first album's still going. So if you do a new Destiny's Child album, the Beyonce album can still go. It won't be a new album. And then the fact that Beyonce's in Destiny's Child again and they did the reunion, that'll go at the same time. And then you'll create that type of buzz and synergy.
So this is why we had Lose My Breath and all that.
Right.
No, you're the fucking one that planted that seed.
This is what I told him. I said, so he goes.
I'm getting goosebumps. This can't be true.
It's the truth. So he goes,
Crazy.
well, we can't do a new album. We don't have the budget. So I said, okay, how many songs did you do for Dangerously in Love? He said 45. I said, pick the best 10 of what you didn't use for Dangerously in Love and create another album, change the lead parts and split it up with the girls.
Oh my God.
And then you're good.
That's crazy.
That's
He does
crazy,
this.
son.
He puts the group back together. The album sells 4 million, and then he doesn't talk to me anymore.
Huh.
Yep. Ghosts.
I need you to look into that camera and tell the Beehive you're welcome.
Well, like I said,
Go ahead.
When this stuff was happening, half the Beehive, they were like 5 years old.
Go ahead. Tell them you're welcome.
Yep. You're welcome. But you know what? They don't know enough to even know.
It's cool.
Like,
Now they do.
They were 5, they were 6, they were 10. I mean, shoot. My birthday's next month. Guess how old I'll be? You guys want to guess?
52.
What do you think?
I was gonna say 53.
I'll be 60.
Wow.
Really?
Yes.
My
God bless.
1964.
God bless.
So half those people that followed it, they were like 5. Some of them weren't even born.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm not mad at them. They don't know.
Do your Googles.
But I've been doing this. I've been DJing since I was 16 years old. My first check I got for DJing a backyard party was 1981.
Wow. Oh my God.
So my record collection is nuts. But for being in the record pool and getting international stuff, and like I said, I started in '87 in radio. By '88, I had a nationally syndicated show called Mix America. At the same time, I was doing Choice FM in London, and I did Music Choice UK, which is like 30 countries or whatever. And then I got to BLS in '92 while I was still doing the UK thing. So '92 to '95, I was at BLS doing the Thunderstorms. At the same time, I was still doing London, but then I started doing nationally syndicated shows from '95 to '98 when I landed at Music Choice, because Damon, my boy, one of my best friends from DC, he took over as program director of Music Choice when they had, I think, 11 million. They went from 11 million to 35 million customers. But anyway, so I did that from 1998 to 2013. But I came back to BLS in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And so 2009 to 2021, when Flex said that, he called me up, he says, Charles, we're not firing you, but there's too much house music on BLS, so we just don't have a slot for you. So then I called my boy Geronimo at Sirius and like, look, I'm ready to come over. So boom, went to Sirius.
Wow.
So I've been there now for almost 3 years, 2.5 years.
Almost 40 years of radio.
37.
That's awesome.
Yep. And I just started my show back at Soul City. I did Soul City the Beat out of Italy, but now I started my African Crest Radio show. I'm doing mixes for them now. That's in Africa. So there's South Africa,
Wow.
Rwanda, Uganda, and Zimbabwe.
Wow.
So
Incredible.
Amazing.
they don't have a big budget, but it's just it's fun.
Yeah. I think it's insane how like everyone in the record industry, like basically you do all this shit and they just forget.
Yeah, they do.
That's great.
Short memory.
So like you never heard from Matthew Knowles after that?
I think one time we connected and he wanted me to come down to one of his schools and talk or something, and I was just like, yeah, sure. And then he ghosted again.
And then once again, this Destiny's Child idea to get reunited, that just came off like in the middle of a phone call that you had with him on the spot.
Yep.
Wow.
The episode's it's going almost to 3 hours. So wait. I would love to talk to you for even longer, but I want to revisit this maybe another time.
We can. Well,
But
after the Beehive and everybody chimes in and says, after the young children who weren't even born or like were in 5th grade or like running around with Barney and they have a comment, they weren't there.
Yeah. Just check your Twitter in 2 years. You'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
You'll be all right.
That was pretty funny. After 2 years not checking, they were like,
That's funny.
well, that song was never offered to A. Marie. I'm like, because it didn't get she didn't get a chance to record it, but it was part of the group of songs that she was going to do. Like, Rich didn't know that I was going to call him. That's like the main thing. If I never called Rich, and Mark Jordan never called me to call or asked me to call Rich. And it was funny. Another story about Mark Jordan is pretty funny. So Mark Jordan got blown out too from Columbia. So he ends up managing this artist from Barbados.
Oh man.
Rihanna. So meanwhile, I'm working with I'm consulting Veda Nobles, who sued Columbia for the Lauryn Hill record that she said she produced when really him and his group did 7 of the singles.
Yeah.
So I teamed up with him, and I was like, "Look, man, you're trying to make it. I'm trying to make it. Let's find an artist and work with him." So he had played this track for me called a Jenna Rhythm, and it had Pajami MC in it, and it had like a Tanya Stevens, like all these reggae records that we would never be able to clear.
Yeah.
The beat was crazy. So I told him, "Look, you're not going to be able to clear these records. So, but I like the beat."
Don't tell me you gave him Diwali.
No,
Okay.
with Diwali. So no, he already had the beat from Ponder Replay.
Okay.
So,
But it's kind of a Diwali.
because he was trying to he wanted to do a rhythm. He wanted to like do a record and put a bunch of different artists on.
Oh, okay. He was trying to do a rhythm.
Right.
Okay.
So, but I told him you won't be able to clear these songs. Going to block us. So take the Panami MC out, take all the samples out, keep the beat, keep the bass line, and just have your songwriter. I think it was a girl named Majesty. I said, have her just write a song that DJs can relate to in the West Indies. So Pawn the Replay means spin the record back. Mm-hmm. So she did that, and then I brought him a couple artists, and we had another artist that we put on the song, and he was just trying to get it all together. And then one artist that we were going to come out with the single, I think her name is Malika. We were going to come with her as a single on that beat. And I guess somehow they had a falling out at the same time that Mark Jordan, who also knew Vader because he was with the production of Columbia, and Vader, they knew each other. So Mark Jordan called Vader for a song for this new artist that he was managing. And it was Rihanna. So he gave Rihanna the Pawn and Replay track that Majesty wrote the lyrics to.
Wow.
So then, funny story, just like Columbia, Def Jam wasn't really feeling the record. They felt like Rihanna was like, some vanity project that Jay-Z had, because now he's the head of Def Jam, and they weren't really taking it serious. Plus, he's from Barbados. It's not Jamaica or Trinidad. So it was like, whatever. That's like the corny island, so we don't really want to do it. So when I was at MCA, I was working with this guy, Benny Pugh, who became the vice president of promotion for Def Jam. So he calls me up. He goes, we got this Rihanna record. I said, I know about Rihanna. He's like, yeah, but we want you to promote it and cross it over to, or do what you do with the DJs with it. You still doing that? I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Then I'm laughing because I'm like, yeah, I work with Vader with that record. I gave him an idea for it, and him and his producers, kid named Logic, they came with that beat. He's like, okay, whatever. Just come in. I got this check for you and do the promotion. So I pushed Rihanna to Pawn and Replay to the Bum Squad, because the Bum Squad was a part of the Technicians, but that was Latin Prince's group, and they were more crossed over in pop, whereas the core DJs was more urban and underground hip-hop. So I figured, well, I'll let Bum Squad handle this.
Why did you want it to shop it as a pop record and not urban?
Because the urban department said they couldn't do anything with it. They rejected it at Def Jam. And I was like, we don't know what to do with this. So I figured if I cross it over...
That's why it became such a TRL song.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it went that way first. And then Cypher Sounds was first to play it in New York, but I had it playing on 102 in L.A., and then another little trick that I used to do for get BS spins. This is my secret. I guess I'll tell everybody.
What's BS spins? What is that?
That's the broadcast data system. They track all the spins, all the records digitally through the wave. Like it's a wave format that tracks the spins, and that was the industry standard. So to trick that, just like I did this with A. Marie too, I would send. This is a secret that everyone's going to start doing now. I'm going to tell them because I don't really care. But I would send the music instrumental to all the production departments at all the radio stations so they could cut the commercials and have that in the background and play a record. So it would detect as a spin. So
whatever you can do to leverage all those spins and just add them up, right?
Yeah, because the problem with the A. Marie record was, Why Don't We Fall in Love? I had 22 versions of the record. And I had to send all 22 versions to BDS.
Wait, what do you mean? Like the remixes and all that?
Yeah, everyone was sending remixes. Cameron was on one.
Jesus.
It was nuts. Every little local rapper, everybody was on A.
And then Rich Harrison did like a completely new remix.
Yeah. Well, that was a label sanctified one. That was the official remix.
Yeah.
With like Luda.
Did you have anything to do with that, or that's just the label that wanted it?
Well, we had a meeting and we were trying to figure out what rapper would be good, and then the A&R guy Lenny, he came up with he had said Ludacris. So I was like, yeah, Ludacris would be fine. As a matter of fact,
I'm talking about another remix, the other remix that Rich Harrison, and it was a complete.
Yeah. That was that. Yeah, he flipped it. That was a great mix too. I didn't really play that version because it was so slow, but it was like a Quiet Storm vibey version.
It was a complete. Well, it was like hard ass drums. It was almost. It was like a completely different melody.
Yeah,
they changed everything about it.
Yeah, he did that as a remix, and that was cool. And I think
he just did it just because he wanted something.
He's
on the single.
Super creative guy, super talented. But I think just like you were saying before, how the industry, the way it treats people.
Yeah.
So I think he was just like, I'm done.
Really?
And he kind of disappeared off the scene.
He's one of the greatest producers of the 2000s.
Yep.
He shaped the sound of that era.
He did.
You know, you always told me that you've been saying that you don't like the Talking to Me record with A. Marie.
No, Talking to Me wasn't a good first single.
Okay.
It was a great second.
All right, correction.
It was a great.
You didn't
second
like it
single.
as a first single,
Right? Because
So,
it was too.
but I was wondering,
It was too. It was too. Like you said, it was
Contemporary.
Contemporary. Like
no one says contemporary anymore.
I know.
Like
But it was like
John Cicada was contemporary,
super
right?
John
mature,
Cicada
it was
is
a
crazy.
super mature record for her.
Right.
Like I said, like with Shantae Moore, when Shantae Moore came out with Love's Taken Over, I thought she was like 40.
That's such a good record, though.
I know, but when you think of the artist, you think it's just like an older artist.
It should have been
She
a
was
bigger
like
record.
20.
It should have been a bigger record.
Because a perception of her was that she was just this old little
Right.
girl trying to do a hot record, and I think, but even with the video,
I thought she was in like in her late 20s or 30s. I thought it was like some Anita Baker, like
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
that's what contemporary R&B was back in the day when there was like grown ass R&B.
Yep.
It was like contemporary. It was like that's
So-
what they used to call R&B.
So I wanted Talking to be the follow-up single because it was a great record, but for the first single, nah.
So wait, are you the one that sanctioned the Mark Ronson remix with Consequence on there?
No.
No?
I did. The A&R did that.
Okay. I always liked that remix.
No, the remix is dope.
Yeah.
Mark Ronson is just incredible. He doesn't even
Yeah.
get the credit that he deserves because without him, it would be no Bruno Mars. Because
Mm.
every label rejected Bruno. But Bruno was on his compilation through Elektra through the UK, and the single blew up.
Uptown
And
Funk.
then he got his deal. Yep.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, like I have so many debates with people, if you look at that Bruno Mars Uptown Funk record, it says Mark Ronson featuring Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
No, Charles, you're wrong. And they look at it like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
It does. Like,
does.
that was Mark Ronson's record.
It actually rebranded Bruno Mars
Yep.
and helped him create a new sound for himself.
Exactly.
Right. To
That's
be
Mark.
like this kind of modern day throwback artist.
Yep.
Right.
Mark Ronson.
Yeah.
He's a DJ. Yep.
I mean, his
Just like
his
sister
first
Samantha.
his first commercial single was with B.O.B. Right?
Yeah, but he was
Beautiful Girls.
Yeah, but he was kind of in this pop realm,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this
yeah,
pop realm. He was like making all these songs, but then he was just kind of getting like there wasn't anything new or like cool
Right.
about him.
Yeah.
Right.
Until Uptown Funk came out, and then he started like creating all this throwback music,
Right.
Yep.
like 24 Karat,
Yep, all
and
that
then
stuff.
and then Finesse, and then it just kept going and going.
Yep.
I mean, that's become his whole persona for the last, I don't know, 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's where it works. It's not broken.
Yeah. Charles, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
what a-
sitting with
what
us.
an
It's been
honor,
a pleasure.
What an honor.
I know I was all
Yeah.
over the place, but I got stories for the stories that I have stories.
I know. I believe it. I believe it.
So to put all that in order, it's like, and I
love
always on tangents.
I'm gonna
I can
buy
talk
the
for another
book.
6
I'm
hours.
gonna buy the book when you write it.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, my wife is like, "Where's the book? You gotta write this book."
That book will be amazing. I would
It's
love
just
to hear it.
like the things I shared today. Like people don't know because like you had to really be there, but I wasn't really running around telling anybody, "Oh, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm gonna do now. This is what I'm gonna do now." But
But the key factor in a lot of your success, outside the fact that you are, one in 100,000 to 1,000,000, is that you're a DJ, and being a DJ is not appreciated, or DJ's input has almost never been appreciated
Yep,
in the
that's
music industry.
true facts.
Yeah, here at R.O.A.D Podcast and the DJ community, we celebrate you, we champion you.
I appreciate that.
DJ Sir Charles
Thank you so
Dixon,
much.
thank you so much for coming through.
I'm smelling the flowers. I'm smelling the flowers. Different scents. Great aroma. Thank you very much. And I'll definitely want to come back.
Definitely.
If you want to watch more episodes from R.O.A.D Podcast, click either links on the left or the right. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and get updated on new uploads throughout the week. Peace.